rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Israel said that Iran violated the peace agreement, the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to the peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy
Trump
with
is
Israel.
not happy, guys.
You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake.
Trump is not happy.
I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Israel said that Iran violated the peace agreement, the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to the peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before.
What's up, Ocean
The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12
Trump
hours,
is not happy.
you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because
get those
of one
likes
rocket
up, guys. Double tap that screen.
That was shot, perhaps by mistake.
What's up?
Land.
Stop.
I'm not happy
stop
about
looking.
that.
Listen. Shout out to you for that gift. What's up,
We
Gilly?
basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Yeah, strong words by the president, guys. He dropped the F-bomb on.
Do you believe that Iran is still committed to the peace?
Yeah, he didn't like that they kept on doing what they was doing after they agreed to stop.
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran
What's up,
either.
Rika?
But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have...
Trump basically cussed both parties, man. Said they don't know when to stop. What's up, Tootsie Roll? Shout out to Rika for that gift. What's up, y'all? Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? They continue to drop missiles and shoot them, you know what I'm saying, at each other even after the ceasefire. And Trump is not happy about that.
We have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. You understand that?
Drop the F-bomb on. Shout out to everybody in the building, man.
Do you believe that Iran is still committed to the peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything
those
you
likes
have on
up,
them.
guys.
So I'm not happy with them.
Screen.
I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Strong words from our president, guys. Said they don't know what they doing. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
What's up, Stepper?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've been asking them was the biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Strong words from the president. It says Israel accuses Iran of firing missiles and vows to strike back as Tehran denies violating ceasefire announced by Trump hours earlier, guys. Then you got Trump. Trump says Israel do not drop those bombs. If you do, it's a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. Then he goes on to say Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Thank you for your attention to the matter. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. And then he says Iran will never rebuild their nuclear facilities, guys. So Trump had some strong words to him. He wasn't happy, you know what I'm saying? He most definitely got in there, you know, like a boss, you know what I'm saying? Like a boss. It says, let me show y'all again. It says, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do, it is a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. He pulled a Birdman on them, guys. Check it out.
I ain't gonna say it no more. Put some respect on my name. You understand me? When y'all saying my name, put some respect on. Y'all finished or y'all done? I ain't got no more talking. That's right.
Say ain't doing no talking. Double tap that screen, get the likes up, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, President Trump.
No more.
This how he felt about it.
You understand me? And y'all saying my name, put some respect on. Y'all finished or y'all done? I ain't got no more talking. That's right.
Yeah, I ain't gonna say it no more. You know what I'm saying? Trump ain't gonna say it no more.
Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
I'll trillion y'all.
They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Let's go, Trump. Trump like a boss, man. You know, so these remarks came after he announced that there would be a ceasefire, but both of those countries, Israel and Iran, continue to fire missiles, guys, and Trump was not happy about it. What's up, Amazingly Beautiful? Man, it's been all over the news. That's all they talking about. You know, and Israel basically came back and responded, you know, basically to what's going on, guys. Here goes all the details about this fragile ceasefire. Let's go. Continue to double tap that screen. Get those likes up. Let's find out what in the world is going on.
Between Iran and Israel, announced by President Trump, appears to be holding despite some tense moments. We're not really sure. This morning, Israel accused Iran of violating the truce by launching more missiles, and then they vowed to retaliate. Now, before departing the White House for a NATO summit in the Netherlands, President Trump expressed his frustration at both countries. Listen to this.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Let's go, Trump.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
That's the president.
Yeah, I think we understand it. Message received. Moments later, in a post to Truth Social, the president insisted that the ceasefire is in effect and no further bombs would drop. We have team coverage for you this morning. First, with our senior White House and political correspondent, Ed O'Keefe, who's at The Hague, where the president is expected to attend today's NATO summit. CBS News national security contributor Samantha Vinograd is following developments from Washington, D.C. But first, before we get to those two, I want to bring in CBS senior foreign correspondent Holly Williams from Erbil, Iraq. Okay, Holly, just from where you are in the Middle East, what is your understanding of the state of this very fragile ceasefire at this hour?
Yeah, hey there, Vlad. It certainly looks pretty precarious, doesn't it? Both sides kept firing right up until the moment the ceasefire went into effect. One Iranian missile hit a residential building early this morning in southern Israel. At least 4 people were killed. And then after the ceasefire went into effect, Israel said that Iran launched 3 missiles, although there was no damage, no casualties. And then Israel said that it retaliated by destroying a radar array inside Iran, but then refrained from any further retaliation after a phone conversation between President Trump and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Iranian state TV said that Iran's media denied violating the ceasefire. So it certainly looks fragile, but there's also enormous pressure from the US to try to make it stick.
What's up, amazingly beautiful
John?
I mean, what's up, my guy?
You've seen, no doubt, Holly, the Truth Social posts, the tweets, whatever you want to call them, from the President of the United States. He frequently takes to social media for diplomatic purposes. Is there an understanding that this might actually work, that imploring, begging, essentially, the Iranians and the Israelis to stop firing at each other on Truth Social, will that work?
Well, look, diplomatic wheels are clearly turning, aren't they? But, you know, what are the possibilities here? One is, I guess, that the ceasefire...
Will they actually stop, guys, is the question, because they ignored what Trump has said so far.
Break down, and we could go back to a war between Israel and Iran. If the ceasefire does hold going forward, I guess there are a few possibilities. One is that Iran could capitulate, could either give up its nuclear program or curtail it radically. That's clearly what President Trump is hoping for. I guess the second possibility is that Iran looks at the last 11 or 12 days and says to itself, that attack shows that we need to be able to better defend ourselves, and they feel more motivated to develop nuclear weapons. And of course, Vlad, they could do both. They could publicly, the Iranians could publicly pursue diplomacy while secretly trying to rebuild their nuclear program. A nuclear program, by the way, that they've always maintained is only for civilian purposes. Vlad.
All right, Holly Williams for us, reporting from Erbil, Iraq. Holly, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now, as the back and forth over the ceasefire continues, the president, as we mentioned, is heading to the NATO summit in the Netherlands. The ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran is expected to dominate discussions. CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe is joining us from The Hague, where that summit, as we say, is about to take place. So I don't know, Ed, it sort of feels that the president perhaps, and I'm speculating here, but perhaps expected that when he arrived at The Hague to meet with members of NATO, that there would be some level of applause, of appreciation for what had happened. But this morning, the president is imploring both Iran and Israel to stop firing at each other. What are you hearing from the ground?
No, that was definitely one of the goals, was to be able to show up here and say that he had at least successfully removed Iran's nuclear program, if not also the ceasefire agreement. And that seems to be what was at the crux of the frustration this morning that he shared with reporters before leaving the White House. We now know that the diplomacy is continuing there at 40, 50,000 feet as he flies his way here to the Netherlands this morning.
So they completely ignored Trump, guys, and continue to do battle with each other. I need y'all to click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up if you can hear the sound of my voice, and most definitely subscribe to the channel if you are new. The like button looks stuck. We got 236 people in the building already and only got 32 likes. Click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, man. Shout out to everybody in the building.
The White House telling us that he spoke directly with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and as the White House says, he was, quote, exceptionally firm and direct with Prime Minister Netanyahu about what needed to happen to sustain the ceasefire. The Prime Minister understood the severity of the situation and the concerns President Trump expressed. That from the White House. Israeli media reporting similarly that they did speak and that Netanyahu seemed to be getting the message. There were also Truth Social posts, as you mentioned as well, suggesting that Israel's not going to attack Iran, and also saying later that Iran will never rebuild their nuclear facilities. The president coming here to the NATO summit, which is set to focus primarily...
Now remember, we don't know if we actually took out their nuclear sites or not, because we haven't had inspectors in there to let us know exactly what's going on. But Trump says he completely annihilated it, and then again, you got other people that's like he completely missed it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments.
On a boost in military spending by all members. This is an event that's attended by diplomats, leaders of the member nations, also a handful of lawmakers from these various countries. It becomes an opportunity for them to talk to each other. Remember, members of Congress today are getting a classified briefing from U.S. officials about what transpired over the weekend, and they hope to get some sense of what's next. We spoke earlier today with New Hampshire Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen, who's the top Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and is here for the summit, about the situation in Iran. Take a listen.
I think the threat of Iran with a nuclear weapon is a huge concern. It's a concern for America. We know already. In fact, I just ran into one of our former elected officials who said he is still being stalked by Iran and is concerned because they have an effort to assassinate him. So we know the terrorist threat they presented across the Middle East with the Houthis and Hamas and Hezbollah. And it's been not just to Americans, but to people across the world. So, yes, I think they have been a threat. Now, it remains to be seen what the next steps are, and President Trump has not been clear about what he hopes to happen next.
There is a classified briefing for senators today.
Yeah.
Obviously, you won't be there.
Too little, too late.
What's up, Mo?
I think it's late. It should have happened before he took this action.
But notable, Vlad, that she is supportive, generally, of what the president did by all accounts, destroying, if not setting back, the Iranian nuclear program. Just wants to know more about what's next and whether this means the U.S. is getting more deeply involved in the conflict or if it was a one-and-done situation. And then, of course, there's all the issues that NATO countries will be discussing here.
All right, Ed O'Keefe for us at The Hague, where it appears to be fairly windy, but at least you're not dealing with the 100-degree heat that we have here on the East Coast, Ed. We thank you, my friend.
We got the better weather today.
You did indeed. Appreciate you as always. All right, for more on the situation in the Middle East, I want to bring in my friend, CBS News national security contributor, Samantha Vinograd, who's joining us from Washington, D.C. Sam, you heard my conversation with Ed and with Holly earlier. The president has expressed frustration at both Israel and Iran. How do you think his comments are going to be viewed by both countries? There is some analysis out there that the president of the United States does respond, as most humans do, to flattery. And it feels almost as if he was using his social media to flatter the leaders of Iran and Israel in an attempt to appeal to their better angels. But I don't know that others operate in that fashion, especially when they are the stars of their own shows. In other words, what are in their national interest may not necessarily always be in our national interest, even if we're talking about an ally.
Vlad, I think it's unfortunate that the president used expletive-filled language when talking about our closest ally, Israel, and of course, Iran and their behavior over the last 12.
He said they don't know what the F they're doing. They've been fighting for so long, they don't know what the F they doing.
To 24 hours. At the same time, Vlad, I really don't think that Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Supreme Leader of Iran are as focused on what is being said publicly, social media, and the war of words that we're seeing transpire both on social media and in traditional media. Instead, as you mentioned, what is critical is what's happening behind the scenes, what's happening domestically for them and what's happening behind closed doors in Tehran, in Tel Aviv, in Jerusalem, and the private negotiations that are underway. We understand that this ceasefire came into effect after President Trump reportedly convinced the Israelis to accept it, and then asked the Emir of Qatar to
Now, a lot of y'all
convince
said it
Iran
wasn't
to
gonna
accept
work
the ceasefire
anyway.
as well.
I guess
Qatar
y'all
has
was right
positioned
so far.
itself as a key mediator in a range of conflicts, including this Israel-Iran war, as well as negotiations between Israel and Hamas to end the war in Gaza after Hamas's terrorist attack against Israel on October 7th.
What's up, Clayco?
So it's interesting, Sam, if this ultimately, the president has indicated that these nuclear facilities were obliterated. There's been some back and forth from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff about how obliterated or what that definition looks like. But let's assume that the president, give him the benefit of the doubt, and this slows or at least eliminates Iran's capabilities at building a nuclear weapon. And the reason I wonder if people are thinking about how good that might be for the region and the world, because I've seen some analysis, and you no doubt have seen it as well, which is that President Clinton back in 1994, during the first North Korean nuclear crisis, also considered striking North Korea before they built nuclear weapons. The South Koreans did not want that to happen, and now North Korea has nuclear weapons. So if it turns out that this worked, is that not a good thing?
It certainly is. A nuclear-armed Iran is a menace not just to the Middle East, but to the entire world. And the fact that Iran's nuclear program has at the very least been set back is a net positive, Vlad. And we should consider it as such. They were closer than they had ever been before to a nuclear weapon based upon their stockpiles of highly enriched uranium, as well as most likely knowledge about how to successfully weaponize, how to successfully build a bomb, target a facility or another country like Israel, and then actually implement it. So that is a net positive. However, it is worth noting that the battlefield assessment about the efficacy of these military strikes is going to take some time. It is likely going to be informed not just by satellite imagery, but by intelligence, U.S. and Israeli intelligence, human sources, signals intelligence, that lays out conversations between key officials in Iran about how much damage these strikes actually did, how many centrifuges were destroyed, how much enriched uranium, and importantly, how much intellectual capital. Nuclear scientists were assassinated, facilities destroyed, and we need to understand the intelligence assessment about what occurred, and that will take time, Vlad. That is not going to be an immediate conclusion that the intelligence community is able to gather. They have to work their sources.
And really quickly, Sam, before I let you go, because we're running out of time, but I've heard, I spoke to an analyst yesterday who primarily focuses on Iran, and he says that this strike will actually, in his words, he guarantees now that the Iranians will speed up the move towards nuclear weapons. What do you think?
Well, there's certainly differing analysis on that, but two things. The first is that the Iranian regime responds best to maximum pressure. I was in the White House during the early days of the Iran nuclear negotiations, and Iran came to the table because of maximum economic pressure. In this scenario, they are under maximum military pressure and almost maximum economic pressure. There's some other economic levers that we could pull. So I do think there's a possibility that they are crippled enough to come back to the negotiating table versus trying to break out to a bomb.
All right, Samantha Vinograd, always with that brilliant analysis for us this morning. Thank you.
All right, you know what I'm saying? So that was a little bit on the ceasefire, guys. The people at the Department of Justice most definitely came out and spoke as well, guys. Check this one out.
Who are there and for the vital role they continue to play for U.S. and regional security. Yesterday, Iran launched several missiles against AUAB. Many of those missiles were successfully intercepted due to the combined efforts of the U.S. and Qatari armed forces. Thankfully, no Americans or Qataris were hurt. In further announcements today, Secretary Rubio has landed with the president at the NATO summit at The Hague. As the secretary has noted, under President Trump's decisive leadership, we're driving historic change at NATO. Also this week, the United States will participate in the 55th Organization of American States General Assembly in Antigua and Barbuda, where we will engage with regional partners to advance our shared goals to make
it's a lot going
for a safer,
on
stronger,
there,
and more prosperous hemisphere.
We need 40 more likes to 100, guys. Click those three dots. Hit that thumbs up. It says Trump mean what he says. State Department briefing following strikes on Iran nuclear sites, guys.
Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau will lead the U.S. delegation, reinforcing our commitment to supporting Rosa Maria Paya's candidacy to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, addressing the crisis in Haiti, and countering the influence of the Chinese Communist Party in the Western Hemisphere. In addition, today, the Department of State's Rewards for Justice program announced a reward of up to $5 million for information leading to the location, recovery, and safe return of Mahmoud Shah Habibi. Mr. Habibi was abducted and detained by the Taliban's General Directorate of Intelligence on August 10th, 2022. He has not been heard from since that time, and the so-called Taliban government has not yet provided any information about Mr. Habibi's whereabouts or condition.
I thought we already got rid of the Taliban, but anyway.
We encourage anyone with information on Mr. Habibi to contact +1 202 702 7843. That is +1 202 702 7843 via Signal, Telegram, or WhatsApp, or go to rewardsforjustice.net. that again is an up to a $5 million reward for Mahmoud Shah Habibi for his safe return. And again, that is rewardsforjustice.net. Excuse me?
Yeah, excuse her. She say don't talk while she talking.
Please.
Let's go.
I'm more of an announcement here. To conclude today, the United States condemns the brutal and cowardly attack on the Mar Elias Greek Orthodox Church and offers its condolences to the victims and their families. We call on the Syrian government to hold all perpetrators of violence accountable and ensure the security of all Syrians, including members of religious and ethnic minorities. As Ambassador Beck has said, the United States continues to support the Syrian government as it fights against forces seeking to create instability and fear in their country and in the broader region. And now I will take your questions. Daphne, please.
Thank you.
Sure.
Just on Israel-Iran, Trump has said that he was unhappy with both sides for reaching the ceasefire deal, but particularly frustrated with Israel. Does the State Department have concerns about whether this truce will hold, and what conversations is Secretary?
Yeah, Trump is most definitely not happy with either side. He say neither one of them know what the F they're doing.
Rubio having today with counterparts about this deal.
Yes, as I noted in my announcement, and actually what, of course, we always appreciate about President Trump is you never really have to guess at what he's thinking, which is appreciated.
25 more likes, guys. Click those three dots, hit that
Americans in the
thumbs
world
up.
have watched all of this unfold, I think, in a very clear way, and certainly with the leader of the free world, of the world, really, essentially, and Donald Trump, making it clear his opinion. And this is what also, I think, keeps things moving. With any ceasefire dynamic, it's fragile. And in the meantime, of course, things did come together, and there has been quiet in that region. He did make clear his feelings about that, but as I mentioned in the opening, that he said, just a couple of hours ago, both Israel and Iran wanted to stop the war equally. It was my great honor to destroy all nuclear facilities and capability, and
William says Trump think he's king of the world.
The president has believed from the beginning that diplomacy can stop wars, that it is the thing that we should rely on. He leaned into that, and it's continuing to work. This is a dynamic now that is in play. And is, I think, steady, as he has, I believe, also recognized based on his comments.
And then on his comments about China being able to continue to purchase oil from Iran, how did this come together? Was this part of the Israel-Iran ceasefire deal? And what does that look like going forward? Will sanctions that have been imposed be lifted? Will there be waivers? How does that look?
Those are all very good questions. Yes, and it's obviously a very fast-moving, we've used the word fluid here many, many times, a very fast-moving environment. The president has signaled what he expects, what he is looking forward to. This is a cabinet and a government that acts to the nature of what...
Rage say this shouldn't even be our fight. A lot of people say that, but a lot of people are like, man, forget that. We in it, but a lot of people have said this ain't even our concern. We don't even know why we over there.
He says and what he wants. And in this case, of course, I'm not going to discuss what that process will be, the nature of any of the applications via the various departments in this government. But clearly, we are focused on making sure that guiding hand of President Trump prevails and moves this government forward. So we will have to wait and see when it comes to what that ends up looking like. All right. Yes, Andrea.
Well, just to follow up,
yes.
Does that mean, just to translate?
So a lot of people are concerned about the Israel-Iran conflict, guys. It's on everybody's mind.
Are we lifting sanctions? Has anything happened to make that possible?
I'm not going to get ahead of the president or try to guess at what his strategy will be, but it will be one that will benefit this country, and that, again, he's very clear. I think the difference is, obviously, sometimes you don't hear ahead of time about the trajectory of a president. With President Trump, he speaks honestly with us. So I would suggest to not translate, to not speculate or guess, but to watch, because things happen quickly, and I think we'll find out sooner than later. Yes, ma'am. One more.
Quick follow-up on something you quoted the president saying it was my great honor to destroy all nuclear facilities to stop the war. As far as we know, the bomb damage assessment has not been done. The Joint Chiefs Chairman was talking about how long it might take. Do we have something more conclusive about destroying all of the nuclear facilities?
Well, a conclusive comment for me would be coming from the President of the United States. I have great admiration for you, Andrea Mitchell, but I think he might know more than you do at this point. More than I, more than any one of us here. At the same time, obviously, the information that we receive, that the American people receive, and which will be public, will take some time. But President Trump has indicated his pleasure at the success of that raid, which obviously was very limited in scope. And that's a very good point, I think, at the when it comes to the nature of what's occurred.
Steve called her a puppet. Lord, our mercy.
Sean Tandon.
Sure. Could I pursue that? Another comment from the president this morning. He was saying that basically stop the bombs was the message that he sent to the Israelis. Does he believe that the Israelis complied with this? Is he happy with how it turned out?
Well, I think that there's early on, and again, I'm here at the State Department. I know my colleague Caroline is very articulate and clear on the nature of the president whom she represents and the State Department at the White House. But I think when we clearly look at the nature of how the day has transpired, there was some activity back and forth, and that has stopped, and the ceasefire has taken effect, and the president is pleased. So I think we can take that as an indicator of his feeling about it at this point.
Sure.
One more.
Sure, and I mean, they're both statements both from Tehran and from Jerusalem
yes.
today. But I mean, one of the things that from the Israeli military chief was saying that they reserve, this is just a phase, and they reserve the right to go back in. But, I mean, do you think that's consistent with the call for a ceasefire in terms of the Israeli statements on this?
Well, I think.
Do y'all think they will honor the ceasefire, seeing that they already have broken it? You know, will they honor it? That's the biggest question, guys. Will Israel and Iran honor the ceasefire?
That we've looked at, that we care about, are the fact that both, well, certainly Israel has agreed to the ceasefire. And we believe there's a statement from Iran that has done so as well. So those are the statements that we care about. All right. Yes, sir, in the back. Right there, sir. Yes, sir.
Thanks, obviously, pretty epic diplomatic developments last night.
Yes.
Can you walk us through any of the diplomatic steps that were taken that led to the ceasefire?
A lot of y'all are saying no, they won't honor it.
What are some of the ongoing efforts to make sure the ceasefire sticks? And then a separate but related question. The President spoke this morning about the great trading potential with Iran. Does this administration envision a broader rapprochement with Tehran that could lead to diplomatic ties being established, even the embassy being reopened?
Well, on both those issues, I can't speak directly to them, but I can say a few things in that certainly I wasn't there. The Secretary of State was in a dynamic with the President that is a private dynamic as that team was addressing a war and the nature of how to stop it. So I can't speak to how that transpired or the decisions that were made, but obviously a successful evening, successful aftermath when it comes also to
Gillian says they're both hotheads. I hear you.
A very quick ceasefire. In the meantime, for your other question, which was, remind me again your second question.
Well, the President Trump this morning spoke a little bit about the potential for trade with Iran.
Oh, the trade question.
I was asking more about
anything for Klaus says, but Israel got 9 nuclear missiles, but Iran can't have one.
Obviously, again, while I can't speak obviously to the choices President Trump will make, what we do all know is that he is a businessman. Americans appreciate that about him, the nature of how he looks at the issue of national security and safety, and he has in the past addressed the issue of relationships with this country, keep other nations secure, that we are a good friend to have, that a friendship with the United States assists and helps facilitate the natural national security of another nation. So I look at that in his approach in certain things, and that's been certainly his attitude about it, and it seems to be a correct one. It's one I agree with. So I think we'll see that if that in fact is the case here, and we'll find out. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any sort of monitoring mechanism for this ceasefire if it continues to hold? Will there be a third party that is making sure that both sides are adhering to this ceasefire?
Well, as I said, the State Department, I can't really speak to that. I think that's a DOD question and certainly a White House question.
And then how do you view the next steps for nuclear talks potentially resuming in light of the ceasefire? Is there anything on the schedule, any follow-on conversations between the two sides to try to resume the talks that had been scheduled?
I can't speak to a schedule. I'm not going to guess or speculate about when something might happen. What we do know, and President Trump throughout this process had been tweeting about the fact that this would be a good time for negotiations to renew, for these talks to renew. Of course, with some disappointment that it got to this point. He has been committed to diplomacy and to discussions. Obviously, he's displayed that for these last 5 months. I would think that has not changed. That's
exactly what you say,
the commitment, not just from President Trump, but also from Secretary Rubio, to minimize the need and go out of your way for the need to not engage militarily is clearly a hallmark
Absolutely,
for him,
Brenda,
and
what's
his
up?
view of national security and foreign policy, as it is for Secretary Rubio, and I would expect that approach and that commitment to remain the same. Yes, go ahead.
Thanks, Tammy. Just to follow on that, over the weekend, the president, many other cabinet members, they said that the strikes by the U.S. military on Iranian facilities had obliterated the nuclear program. Because of that, do you see that as buying more time for these negotiations to play out? Has the urgency at all changed? And there are reports that Qatar has tried to mediate nuclear talks, try to restart those. Are you receptive of Qatari efforts at this point?
Well, that's not something I can address in any detail at all. I do know that the president was very confident in his assertion of the destruction of those sites. That was necessary because of the point that he's had from the start of this, which is that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That has been a very singular, clear...
Nobody wants Iran with nuclear weapons, guys. Hey, that's all I've been hearing. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. But they've been saying that Israel got them, and China and them got them, and Russia got them, and America got them. Why come Iran can't have them? I'm just asking. Let me know in the comments.
Point. The understanding is now they're not going to have one. And that clearly might open the door for the people involved in those kinds of decisions about how to move forward. But that was, and the strikes indicated that. It was a very distinctive, limited strike regarding the issue that was in the forefront of the president's mind, that he made clear over and over again, that they will not have a nuclear weapon. And now they will not have a nuclear weapon. How we move forward from here is up to the President of the United States. Saeed, yes, sir.
Thank you. Now that we have the ceasefire between Iran and Israel seems to be holding.
Cornelius, Copenhagen, don't worry about the music. Listen to the words. If you distracted, just go look at it somewhere else. We don't need you over here distracting other people. Talking about the music is distracting you. Absolutely not, Otto. Anita, I'm not turning the music off, so y'all might as well move along, you know what I'm saying, before you get deported.
Are we likely to see renewed efforts to have a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in Gaza? I mean, just for figures, Sammy, maybe 400 people got killed in the exchanges between Israel and Iran. In the same period, 700 Palestinians have died, many of them at the aid distribution center.
Yeah, this is why, and we are reminded about why the ceasefire efforts are important. It is a reminder about why the president, and why we're lucky for President Trump to be our president, and for Secretary Rubio to be focusing on changing the status quo on this planet, and changing the old dynamic of wanting new ideas. It has been his hallmark from the start, and that has not changed. What we can say, and just as a reminder, Saeed, there is a deal on the table. Hamas must stop acting recklessly and accept it. As Special Envoy Witkoff has said, Hamas's recent response to the offer was totally unacceptable and only takes us backward. It hasn't been that long, right? A lot of stuff is happening in a short period of time. But the fact of the matter is that we've never stopped working for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. We've never stopped wanting that to end, to get us out of that repetition of something that has certainly made the first victims, the people of the Gaza Strip, and then everyone else. It's a reflection of what needs to end and what has been the problem. President Trump has made clear to, in this case, Hamas specifically, that they will face consequences if they continue to hold hostages, which they do, including
hostages,
those who have
Lord.
already passed away and those who are still living. Hamas has rejected repeated ceasefire proposals and therefore bears sole responsibility for how this is continuing. Saeed, if you have a chance, I don't know if you do in your work, to pose the same question to Hamas. It would be, I hope you might be asking them.
I'll do it through my articles. I have no direct.
So you gotta ask them.
Yes, sir, they're in the middle here. Yeah.
Thank you very much. President Trump has long said that Iran should not have nuclear weapons.
Well, that's one of them people from over there. I can tell by the accent. You know, that's most definitely one of those overseas reporters asking questions right now. I can tell by his accent. Yeah, you might want to bulletproof your shirt, lady.
That's correct.
That is clear. Do you think it is important for Iran?
Whoever this is asking these questions, you better watch him. Everybody be on high alert.
Change its foreign policy because the U.S. always says it is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism and destabilizing region.
I obviously can't speak to what's in the mind of the so-called leadership of Iran. I do know that the future of Iran is in the hands of the Iranian people. And whether or not certain individuals change their approach or belief, I think what has happened, the whole world has noted that the world has changed and that nothing will be the same. And how that plays out, we are very lucky that we have President Donald Trump, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and a cabinet that is united in the nature of what we're trying to do for the next 3.5 years.
Between Israel and Iran.
And Kurdistan regional government leadership and strongly welcome President Trump's statement about peace. Do you want to comment on it?
Well, no, there's again, things are happening and moving along so quickly. Obviously, everything in that region, in the Middle East, has changed. And we will have to see where those who are leading this charge and this change, again, the American leadership here with Trump, Rubio, and J.D. Vance, of course, just strong leadership across the board. We're very lucky, as we've seen also with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. We are very early in this administration. Think about it. We are in the middle of June, and we've seen the results now of men and women who are focused. So we'll see, for the Kurds and others as well. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Tammy. Two questions for you. Number one, especially considering the Secretary's now at NATO.
Yes.
Does the Secretary feel like European allies had America's back to the extent that they should in this Iranian operation? I'm not talking about militarily, but from a general support standpoint, beyond just platitudes of concern about the Iranian nuclear program, do you feel like you got backing from Europe on this?
Well, I'm not going to comment or speculate on the feelings or assessments of our partners in any kind of dynamic. That's between them. It's about the leaders of the world right now. What I can tell you is that President Trump and Secretary Rubio are right there in The Hague at NATO for conversations with our partners throughout Europe. And I think that everyone expects that to be very successful. It's going to be a very exciting time. It's a perfect time for those conversations to be had. I'm not going to speculate on the nature of those any conversations or can speculate on the feelings of people either.
Second question for you.
Yes, sir.
In terms of regime change in Iran, the initial message coming out of the administration was, we're not after regime change, we're after the nuclear weapons program. Then the president remarked today, regime change is not a good idea because of the chaos that it would cause. So what is the administration, specifically the State Department's message?
This is the Department of State for the United States. This is not the White House, Dominique.
Here, to Iranians who are suffering under the oppression of the regime, how do they move forward and does America have their back, considering the president said regime change is not a good idea right now?
Well, again, that's the perspective certainly of the president and what his actions, he feels what actions are important, what our intentions were. It was very clear from the start, from the very beginning, for years, the president has spoken about the problem of Iran and how they can't have a nuclear weapon. This is not a new idea, and it's certainly a globally held idea. But we've said here at the State Department repeatedly in a number of different dynamics that the fates of countries belong in the hands of the people in those countries. That is the overriding general message of the Marco Rubio State Department. It is the kind of thing that when we think about, not just democracy, but the nature of the decision of citizens to decide what kind of leadership they want. That is what our position is for certainly Iran and every other country on this.
What's up, Ms. V?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Tommy. Two questions. One, have you received any signals or message from Iran that they are willing to come back to the table? This first. And secondly, are you still sticking with the proposal that you sent to Iran, or you are open to discuss more broadly?
Well, again, as we know, many things have changed in just the last few days. And so I won't speak to what messages may have been sent to Iran, which would have been, of course, to the White House and to if Secretary Rubio as the National Security Advisor. So I would ask you to check with the White House for that. And the next one, yes.
Yeah, on your opening remarks, you said that the United States is ready to help the Syrian government to fight.
She said Trump said what he said, and he said what he means. You know what I'm saying? Most definitely not backing down. This is the Department of State basically giving a briefing on the striking of Iran nuclear sites by America, guys.
Against forces seeking to create instability. Will you elaborate that? What kind of support are you willing to offer to the Syrian interim government? Are you willing to help them by providing military support?
Well, I think already we know, of course, of the assignment as a special envoy of Ambassador Tom Beck has been a very clear indicator of our commitment to helping Syria be able to be a functional and steady and stable government. He, of course, is the ambassador.
He said her name is Susan Kerfuffle.
Our commitment to his work is about getting the structure, the stability of the government as functional. We also, of course, as you know, have lifted many of the sanctions to make it possible for other nations in that region to assist the new government also in becoming stronger and able to, in that region especially, deal with terrorist groups, especially deal with ISIS. And that is our commitment. So it is, I think, manifesting now very clearly, and Ambassador Beck is there as our envoy in that regard, and it's a very exciting time with a lot of potential. Yes, sir. Yeah, yes, sir. In the gray suit there. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Tammy. You've been in the negotiation.
We got 298 watching, y'all. Can we please double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device and click those three dots? Hit that thumbs up, man. The Department of State is basically speaking on Trump's, attack against Iran, as well as the ceasefire agreement that was confirmed by Trump, but seems to be broken by both sides. Because as we know right now, they're still at it.
Protests with Iranians for almost the last 2 months at the State Department. And the Iranian foreign minister just last Friday, he said that they suspect that the negotiations with the U.S. Used as a cover for the Israeli attack. And a day after that came the U.S. raid on Iranian nuclear establishment there and the buildings.
Miss Tammy
Bruce. Are you able to restore the trust between you and Iran? And how do you see these claims from the Iranian side?
Well, that's certainly a question that I can't answer, but we've got the best people in the world who are doing this for a living, who have committed their lives to making a difference here in the world. The president has not indicated that, as a matter of fact, he really opened his presidency with a willingness to talk with everyone. And as peacemaker, that is what he's done, and I would suspect that that approach will continue. All right? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Do you think that there is any lesson for North Korea to learn from the U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, given that North Korea has been doubling down on its nuclear program, despite the Trump administration's commitment to the complete denuclearization of North Korea?
Well, again, the nature of the choices that are made, I won't speculate about what other countries should think or do. At the same time, President Trump, in his first term, made a significant outreach to North Korea. And what I can say, of course, and they've got their own nuclear program at North Korea, that we remain committed to the complete denuclearization of North Korea. That remains a commitment. If the North Korean nuclear issue can't be resolved through dialogue, you know, I'm not going to speculate on hypotheticals at this point, but thank you very much. All right, yes, there you are. Hello.
To follow up on North Korea, has there been significant outreach from the State Department to the North Koreans?
I'm not going to speak to any, whether they exist or not, any diplomatic efforts outside. All right, and yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Tammy. I just wondered whether you have any further information on reports of a drone attack that happened to multiple Iraqi military sites early this morning, local time, Tuesday. Whether you know at all whether Iran was behind those drone attacks at all?
I would suggest that the DoD might be the place that might have an answer to that. Anything else? All right, Daphne, you're good? All right, and then, yes, go ahead, sir, at the end.
It's about the material that was removed from those nuclear sites or satellite pictures of trucks.
Welcome to Everything News, guys, where we cover everything news. Right now, we listen to the Department of State, you know, give their briefing following America's strike on Iran, you know, and the ceasefire between Iran and Israel that both sides seem to be ignoring, man, which caused our president to say they don't know what the F they're doing. I'm just saying.
Oh, nothing. I can tell you nothing. Just saving some time here. Yeah, I'm not going to speculate or discuss what may or may not have been removed from a particular site.
Well, then can you tell us, based on what you do know, I mean, how many years?
I can talk about the English royal family. I love them. Yes.
How many years would this have knocked back the nuclear program? Could that have been avoided if the U.S. had remained in the JCPOA?
You know, when it comes to what's happened with Iran, we can look back several decades about the nature of the choices that certain administrations made that helped facilitate the nature of the building of that program. Donald Trump inherited a world, he'd left a world that was at peace, and he inherited one that was tipping over. And so his commitment, and what we look at here right now, is recognizing what the status of things and what needs to be done.
Shout out to Pimp Tight for that $10. He say, man, get the likes up. Double tap that screen,
and
guys.
Matthew, I have a feeling you might have a question. I vaguely remember that.
But now it turns out that the
you have a different one.
I answered, so I do have a different one.
Okay,
but
good.
all I was trying to find out was you didn't mention that this Mr. Habibi was an American, which it turns out that he is. But you know, has he been wrongfully determined to be wrongfully detained?
We have determined that he has been disappeared, and that he has not been heard from. And that is why there's the rewards for justice, is that he was taken, and he has not been heard from since.
Okay.
And we are hoping that this appeal may bring forward, with up to $5 million, it makes a difference in everyone's lives,
Sure it does.
that we might get some information about him.
Okay, then just the other thing though was you had been asked earlier and yesterday, I think, about this money that is apparently going to go to fund the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Have you been able to uncover anything about that?
Well, here's what has always been the case with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. I now know that there's, I think it's close to 44 million meals that have been distributed, which is a pretty darn good record, and they continue now at 4 sites to distribute them. We have repeatedly noted that we have not funded this entity, but it is, I believe, really the response of the call from President Trump for that region and that area in particular, that we've got to have new ideas about how to change the nature of what's occurring. The region has stepped up, other nations.
All right, she done started talking about Gaza, kind of got off what the topic was, you know, revolving this ceasefire. Now, I've been looking around, guys. I ran across something very interesting. You know, everybody got an opinion on what's going on between Israel, Iran, and America, man. You know what I'm saying? And I ran across a great debate, y'all. Let's go over here to Piers Morgan, where he got Bill O'Reilly, Candace Owens, you know, and a couple of other people talking about this whole situation. This should be good, guys. This should be good. Continue to get those likes up, and most definitely subscribe to the channel if you are new. But that was the Department of State and their take on what's going on with Israel and Iran in this ceasefire, guys. Let's go.
Placably opposed to what both Israel and now the United States have done here. Why?
Yeah. Because, well, first and foremost, just on the MAGA movement level, Trump came out and he gave us a promise that we were not going to be involved in wars. And I'm going back to 2015. Why did people get so excited about Donald Trump, who was then an unlikely candidate, who was being smeared by the media as being
What's
Adolf
up,
Hitler?
Caesar?
Well, it was because he recognized that the American people were being forgotten while we were giving billions of unaccounted billions, by the way, for these never-ending wars. And so it's one of the earliest reasons that people got behind him and got behind his vision. And so we're opposed to a regime change because America as a country has a lot of problems that need to be fixed here first. It's that simple.
Right, but it's not quite that simple. And I'll explain to you why. Because Donald Trump, I think he's not been inconsistent in the sense that in his first term, he wasn't a pacifist. You know, he killed General Soleimani. He
Lord
killed
have mercy,
Baghdadi,
let's
the head
go.
of ISIS, and went after them ferociously.
We most definitely exercised the Fair Use Act of 1976 on all videos played. This is most definitely for educational purposes. Man, this is crazy. But this is Piers Morgan. You know, he got Candace Owens on the show, Glenn Beck, and Bill O'Reilly, all talking about this situation going on with Iran and Israel. This should be good.
He attacked Syria when they killed American troops. You know, he dropped a massive bomb in Afghanistan. It wasn't like he never deployed the American military. And again, here, what he would argue, and has been arguing, is he's not declared war on anybody. What he's done is very specifically target Iran's nuclear capability because of latest reports coming out, which said they had taken the enrichment of their uranium stocks from 3.5% to 60%, and that therefore the leap to weaponization was moving at a pace that couldn't be tolerated. I gotta say, I kind of agree. Now, if he suddenly commits, troops on the ground, then that becomes a different thing altogether. But even when Trump talked about regime change, I think he meant from within, as we saw in Syria in December, where the people themselves rise up. And if that was to happen, why would that be a bad thing?
Okay, so you're asking a lot of questions here. So first and foremost, the idea that you have to formally declare war on like a piece of paper in order for war to happen is a little bit ridiculous. I mean, he dropped bombs. He dropped bombs in Iran. So yes,
there goes Candace Owens with her very unpopular opinions about everything.
We are a part of this war, whether we like it or not. Iran is now speaking and saying that they're going to shut down the Hormuz Strait. There's going to be impact on oil.
Why would they do that? Why would they do that when the main victim of doing that would be Iran? I mean, 50% of China, of the traffic of stuff through there is for China, which is one of their allies.
Don't care, not my business. The point that I'm making here is that to make the assumption that you can just drop bombs on a country and then say, well, you know what, we didn't formally declare war is patently ridiculous. I think that is just...
I agree with that. You know, how can you go drop missiles on somebody and then saying, yeah, man, but we don't want no smoke. But then again, you drop missiles on them. So in some places, it's an eye for an eye. You know, that's the way that I was taught. So how can you be saying that and doing what you did and then saying, hey, man, but I don't want no problem? It don't make sense.
What about when he killed General Soleimani, one of Iran's top military commanders?
Sure, an assassination, a strike, and that, of course, came with some risk. It's a little bit different to be flying out B-6 bombers in the middle of the night and dropping...
What am I wrong about, outside? Let me know. You know, I just feel like, hey, if somebody come punch you in the jaw, you know, and then say, hey, man, but I don't want to fight. They already punched you in your jaw. What you mean you don't want to fight? We finna get it on. I'm just saying. Let me know how you felt like I was wrong about that.
Bombs at the behest of Bibi Netanyahu, which brings me to the second point. The reason that America wants a regime change in Iran is because Bibi Netanyahu is demanding it. And that answers the question as to why there is this split in the MAGA movement. What we are seeing right now is the infiltration of Israel first people, the neocons, people who have always wanted never-ending wars, and the people who have recognized that following Israel's foreign policy initiatives has led to America being on the decline. And so that's where I stand. I am with the MAGA people who grew up, I call us like, Generation 9/11, who were told that America was going to be rendered safer, cleaner. All we had to do was agree to go to, well, ironically, war with Iraq because of weapons of mass destruction. It's all of the same rhetoric dating back to 9/11, all of the same tactics of trying to smear people who are against this war as supporting jihadists. It is not my business to affect a regime change in Iran. It's simply not our business. It doesn't impact us one way or the other. And we also are completely done with the idea that with these decades-long idea that we're doing it to spread democracy because we believe in international liberalism. There was no imminent threat to the United States when Trump made this decision to do what Bibi wanted. And I want to be clear here. This was not Trump's decision. It was Bibi Netanyahu's decision. And that is the reason that he did it. And we're very aware that Israel is dictating our foreign policy, and we would now like that to stop.
Okay, but you wouldn't disagree, presumably, that Iran has been the main sponsor of terrorism in the Middle East through the Houthis, through Hezbollah, through Hamas. I mean, that's widely accepted and recognized. They've done
Widely accepted. No, that's just kind of...
Really? You don't think they have?
Has been a terrorist.
I think that Candace is making she's making some good points right now.
Okay, Israel right now is imparting a genocide and a Holocaust on the Gazan people. So I'm really over this idea like somehow Israel has the moral high ground and we have to get behind them.
I didn't say that.
We've got to go after the bad guys.
I wasn't saying that.
We have.
Oh, hang on. Look, we can come to Gaza where I think we'll reach agreement about what Israel's government's been doing there in the last few months.
But it's relevant. If you're going to call Iranians terrorists, if they right now had an open concentration camp where they were mass killing their own people, we would all be saying this is ridiculous. So it's rich to me that people are concerned about Iran having nukes. What I'm concerned about Israel, who won't even admit that they have nukes, having nukes, while at the same time, they are executing a genocide and a Holocaust in Gaza that the world is watching. So who's the bigger terrorist is the question today. I would say as an American that if we're going to get behind a regime change, it should be in Israel first. So that would be my position. I think the position of a lot of people who are waking up to the fact that Zionism has brought us nothing but grief in America. Can you name one positive thing that Zionists have contributed to America? That us fighting these perpetual wars on behalf of Zionism has contributed to America?
But can you also recognize that Israel...
Yeah, and let's not forget what Trump said.
Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Let's talk about it. Trump say they don't know what the F they doing. Let's continue, guys. Ha!
Placed where it is as a tiny thumbprint in the middle of a region where you have massive countries full of a lot of people that want to wish them harm. And in the case of the terror groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, actually want to get rid of Israel and all Israelis altogether. Can you accept that if you have a huge nation like Iran with 90 million people, and they are facilitating the terror groups to that purpose, that Iran has to defend itself? Now, I would not disagree with you about what has been going on in Gaza in the last few months. I've been very vocal in my criticism of that. Nor do I disagree, by the way, that it wouldn't help Israel if they did have regime change and Netanyahu wasn't prime minister anymore. So on those points, I think we have agreement. But I come back to the fact that the reason Trump has done this, I think, is that he has for a long time said Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb. I think he's absolutely right to believe that would be a pretty terrifying escalation.
Continue to get those likes up, guys. Double
a
tap
country
that
that's
screen.
been so wedded to terrorism in the region. And I think he took the action for that reason. So I don't really agree that he's only doing it because Bibi Netanyahu wants him to go along and do it. I think he's doing it because he believes it's in America's strategic interest that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon. Enough about 9 to 5.
Let's fast forward then.
And more is
vote on whether imminent. It is not in America's strategic interest. There was no imminent threat. He could have taken this to Congress and he could have allowed the people's representatives to vote on whether or not
but nobody does
it was
that.
in the American people.
No president in living memory has, with almost zero exceptions, has bothered to get congressional pre-approval for military strikes. We know that. You know that.
They
I
both
know
making
that.
some great
Obama was
points
the
right
biggest.
now.
Obama did more strikes than anybody, right? I mean, Obama never asked anybody for any
I'm not an Obama
permission.
supporter. Yeah, that doesn't make it okay. By the way, like that argument, just so we're clear, saying, well, we've been doing it wrong forever, so we should just keep doing it wrong, is not an argument that's right.
I don't disagree with you about that.
Okay, so I disagree with Obama doing it. I disagree with Trump doing
fair
it.
enough.
And especially when what we're talking about is what could rise to be a nuclear war, right? We should have done things the right way. And he had indicated that he was going to wait 2 weeks, and then he didn't wait 2 weeks because Bibi Netanyahu, at least according to the Israeli press, if you believe it,
she
said,
most
we're not
definitely
waiting 2
did,
weeks, we want this
Cooley
done
J.
immediately.
She is
But I
against
will say, you are
everything
correct.
going on
He's
right
not
now,
just
Candace.
doing this
That's
because Bibi
fair.
Netanyahu demands it. He's also doing it because Miriam Adelson demands it. He took $100 million from Miriam Adelson. It was very clear what she wanted. She was
Candace most definitely changed her stance not about 2 months ago. She been going at Trump instead of for Trump here lately, man. She been on his top.
that she wanted to annex the West Bank. So there was an imperialist plan.
But I need everybody in the building to take time to click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up. Let's get the likes up, guys. And most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're under 100 subscribers from 35K. Please subscribe to the channel, man.
That was put into place. And unfortunately, when you do a deal with the devil, you're going to have to eventually deliver the pound of flesh. And that is what Trump is doing.
Oh, she said when you do a deal with the devil. Oh, my goodness.
In my opinion, and more evidence of that is the fact when he tweeted that there could be a Trump hotel in Gaza. I mean, that was truly, in my opinion, the most inhumane thing he's ever tweeted.
Well, I think it was pretty clear what he was. I think what he was doing there was pretty clear. He's saying he wants a better life for Palestinian people, a life where they have beaches,
well, when you
and they
pair
have
that
hotels,
with Jared
and they have golf
Kushner
courses.
and Jared Kushner's private equity firm and their ties to what's happening in Israel, and Jared Kushner being on camera shortly after October 7th saying, wow, that property could be worth a lot of money, it makes me a little bit uncomfortable. It makes Americans a little bit uncomfortable. Now, you've asked me to come onto your show to explain to you how the now very fractured MAGA movement is feeling, and I'm telling you that, right?
No, it's real. Honestly,
the very fractured MAGA movement. If you don't know what side she on, you know now.
You also,
I find the split in the conservative movement in America genuinely fascinating because it really is a genuine schism now.
Yeah, there's a genuine schism, and it's only going one direction. And by the way, we shouldn't even call this a schism, because trying to dress this up and delude us into believing that the MAGA movement is what has Meghan McCain cheering, John Bolton cheering, has
20 more
Mark
likes,
Levin
guys, 20
cheering.
more
The
likes.
literal faces of the Never Trump movement are saying this is real MAGA. Yeah, we're not going to be that
But
delusional.
you're on the same side as Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. How do you feel about that?
You're asking about the MAGA movement. The MAGA movement has always been a movement that explicitly did not want to keep involving our sons and daughters in the Middle East. So we have not changed that position. If
All right,
AOC
so somebody said, Candace, you need to raise your vibrational frequency so you can understand things as they are and not as you perceive them in your current state of consciousness. Trump operates in 5 dimensions. Okay, let's go.
She was always anti-war, then she should have thrown on a red hat in 2020 and in 2015 and joined the MAGA movement. That would have been fantastic.
But are you saying America should never
Candace,
use
you're
any
on the
military
same
action?
side as Greta Thunberg when it comes to the Palestinians
Right,
being
but are you saying,
murdered
Candace,
every day.
are you saying,
I am. I'm aligned.
Okay, but are you saying that America should never use any military action then?
No, I'm not saying America can never use any military action. In fact, what I said earlier was I could get behind a regime change in Israel because I think it would fix a lot of issues that are happening and it has been happening to America over time. Like I said,
why
America
wouldn't you want it in Iran? I mean, I'm reading an Amnesty International report from 2024.
Because Iran is not
on.
negatively impacting. I'm answering your question because Iran's regime is not negatively impacting America on a day-to-day basis.
When the leader of Iran says death to America, why doesn't that concern you?
That's a chant. And by the way, I want to be very clear. Why are they chanting death to America?
Let's talk about
Why are they chanting that? That's kind of a random thing. Like, I don't wake up one day and go like,
because of that, we went over there and took out Soleimani, and they still pissed about that.
But why do they want why are they specifically chanting, as opposed to saying, I don't know, death to China or death to Russia? What is it specifically about America?
Well, they say death to America, death to Israel, death to the United Kingdom, actually.
Oh, okay.
Death to pretty much anyone that wants to stand up to them.
Could have had something to do with our actions in the Middle East, is why I'm saying that we need a change in foreign policy. It maybe has something to do with just like killing 1 million Iraqi civilians, okay, because Bibi Netanyahu got on a congressional stage and said there are weapons of mass destruction, and we took that to the bank, and there actually were no weapons of mass destruction, so we just killed 1 million. It could have something, I could be crazy, it could have something to do with our actions in the Middle East. The fact that we have 2,000 troops stationed in Syria right now under the guise of saying that we're fighting ISIS, while at the same time we know that Bibi Netanyahu funded the Al-Qaeda adjacent front because he wanted to overthrow Syria, and they again expand their borders, immediately take on territory, and sell us absolute nonsense. We're talking about funding Hamas. Bibi Netanyahu funded Hamas. There's footage of Bibi Netanyahu saying this stuff on camera. So it's just so ridiculous to me to pretend that they're in some predicament, that they may be eradicated soon, which is why they have to keep funding all of these terrorist groups and then pretending that they're victims of terror, when in fact they are people that are imparting it worldwide. I just think that, like I said, Generation 9/11 has grown up, and I think that our eyes are very clear here, and we recognize that our relationship with Israel has become increasingly problematic, and it always was problematic. So I'll again ask the questions, Piers. I'm asking you because we're having a conversation. Yeah. Name something positive that our Zionist AIPAC foreign policy has brought to America.
Well, I think the positive side of, if you want an answer about that, is that America has been Israel's steadfast ally because it recognizes as a country that Israel has been under an almost unique...
Can we get 200 on the likes, guys? 200 on the likes. Let's continue to double tap that screen or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up. What's up, Happy Life? Shout out to you for gifting that membership, man. Most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're watching Piers Morgan. He got Bill O'Reilly, Glenn Beck, and Candace Owens on the show. And they're all debating about this Iran-Israel situation, guys. Shout out to everybody in the building.
Multifaceted threat on its border for a very long time from people that want to destroy it. And that you may not see that as a benefit, but Israel has been very supportive to the United States in many ways. Right, so why shouldn't America...
I just want something concrete that has been benefit. Like, we got better in America in this way. Just name something. Gas prices, just something that the average American can relate to.
Well, you're not going to have a correlation between Zionism and gas prices in America. Of course you're not.
No, I'm just giving you an example. Just tell me one thing that because what your argument here is like, well, you get a pat on the back and you can say that you helped this country, which was formed in 1948 by... pretending to be refugees, if you will, and being invited into the homes of Palestinians, the horrific story of what happened.
They weren't pretending to be refugees. They were people fleeing a Holocaust.
Let's be clear. Let me finish my statement.
Who's making the most valid points right now? Is it Bill or is it Candace, guys? Let me know in the chat.
Pretending to be refugees.
Let me finish my statement. When I say pretending to be refugees and being invited into the home, you would think that these people were helpless and were going to be grateful to the people that hosted them. People like Muhammad Hadid, Bella Hadid and Gigi Hadid's father, who was an infant at this time in his mother's arms. She had just given birth. They had invited these refugees because of the goodness of their heart. And then one day they return home and their doors are locked and they are told that if you try to enter, you are going to be shot and killed. That is the reality of how Israel was established as a state. Okay, that is not a state that you can write from history. Most Americans growing up actually believe what happened was that, okay, it was a little messy. That's what happens after wars. Borders get changed. But at the very least, they were given money.
I see a lot of people saying Candace is making the most valid.
No, that's not what happened. They were forced out of their homes at gunpoint.
Listen,
and it's wrong. So we get to be the nation on the back. According to you, the thing that America gets. Let me finish. I'm going to let you finish. It's your show. We can. But let me finish.
Let's go, Candace.
Your argument is that what we get to be is that nation that keeps supporting it as they continue to move their borders in this way. Now we're seeing that incursion into Gaza, and we are certainly going to see it by the end of this administration in the West Bank, because like I said, that is why Miriam Adelson gave Trump $100 million.
Look, as you know, I oppose what the Israeli government is doing now in Gaza. I oppose the expansion of settlements on the West Bank. I think all of that is completely wrong. I do think America supports Israel because it remains the only democracy in the Middle East, and that's an important...
They're not a democracy. Stop saying that, Pierce. You know better.
Well, they have elections.
It's not a democracy.
They have elections.
But who gets to vote in those elections? Do the Gazans get to vote in that election?
Well, the Israelis get to vote in Israel, obviously.
Okay, so you're basically saying America had a democracy, we know,
Well,
when we
no,
had
Israel
laws
ceded.
that said Black Americans couldn't, Black Americans
Israel
couldn't
moved
vote.
out. It is indisputable that Israel moved out of Gaza in 2005, and there was an election, and Hamas got elected. Right now,
Yeah,
I
and
agree.
that's because
I agree with you. I agree with
but
listen,
Bibi
hang on.
Netanyahu was on camera saying that they were going to fund Hamas into power.
Listen,
so they orchestrated
Candace,
that because if they wanted to create
Candace,
the
I haven't
solution.
finished.
Look at her. She
I
ain't
agree
even
with you
letting
that
them talk.
Netanyahu wanted to cause a split between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas. It was divide and rule. It was a catastrophically bad strategy, and it led to what happened on October the 7th over a 20-year period. There's no doubt it was a terrible thing that Netanyahu did. One of the many reasons I think he should go. But there was no doubt that the Israelis pulled out of Gaza and allowed them to have elections, and they elected Hamas, and the rest has been disastrous history.
Because the Israelis funded, because Bibi Netanyahu, they funded
I don't
Hamas
disagree
into
with you,
power.
but they still had elections.
So it's like we rigged an election, but look what the election results show is that they wanted to put Hamas into power. And so when we talk about who is funding these terrorists, the answer is
guys, we are 40 subscribers away from 35K. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, man. We're 40 subscribers away from 35K. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Click those three dots, hit that thumbs up. Bill, Pierce Morgan, and Candace Owens are having a great debate right now about Israel and Iran, guys.
Netanyahu, and I don't want to get into his corruption trials, but every single person watching this right now should go pursue the documentary, The Bibi Files, because it is absolutely stunning to understand.
I believe one of the reasons. I believe one of the reasons.
Let me answer the question, because you still haven't given me anything other than like you guys get a pat on the back for supporting this created nation in the Middle East. I also just like to say all of the bad things that we have gotten because of our continued relation with Israel. First and foremost, the open borders. And you can relate to this. People in the UK, they just can't seem to connect the dots.
All right.
Oh my gosh, what's happening here? But I want to say this, okay? We don't understand where all these refugees are coming from. Oh my God, where are all these refugees coming from? Who's funding them coming over into these borders? Well, this is what you get when you keep supporting these nonstop wars, when you keep bombing where these people live. And it's not even just a conspiracy, by the way. They're like, oh, well
actually, you're wrong about this, because the vast majority of people coming into the UK illegally are not coming.
She most definitely ain't letting him talk. But last night, he wouldn't let the one of the ministers from Israel talk either. He was all in his stuff. But he said it's hard to speak over here, and Candace is making it hard for Pierce to speak. But they having a great debate. Both are making valid points, but the chat says Candace is ahead right now. She is making the most sense.
From war-torn countries in the Middle East, they're actually economic migrants.
Okay.
So that's not true.
Okay, but let's connect that. When you say economic migrants, are we talking about like
people who literally want to come to the UK for a better life?
And when Gaddafi was heading up Libya and the country was on the up and up, and he was working with the United Nations, and then all of a sudden he warned that if you collapse Libya and turn it into a place where refugees are escaping, that this is going to be your problem, Europe. He warned that. So then it actually happened, and now we're just calling them economic migrants. We're going to pretend that we have
a truth seeker says she just never shuts up. We might learn something if she could just listen. Let's talk about it.
About people coming from Libya.
Okay, where are you speaking about?
Well, for example, I think it was last year, a third of all the people who came into the UK on the border on the small boats illegally, it turned out were young economic migrant males from Albania, which last time I checked, we hadn't invaded. So look, let me pull you back to something you said, which has caused a lot of controversy, which is this issue of dishonorable discharge. Let's take a listen.
I do believe that if war in Iran is on the agenda, and that appears so, get dishonorably discharged. Who cares? Who cares? Why should you go die in a foreign land? You now have the benefits
for educational
of
purposes
2020.
only.
You can think about those men and those women who died because they were pitched that they were serving their country because they
We're now 30 likes away from 35K, guys. Continue to subscribe to the channel. Click those three dots, hit that thumbs up, man. It most definitely helps out the channel. Yeah, man, and this is Candace Owens and Pierce Morgan talking about Iran, Israel and Iran, guys. Great debate, though. Great debate.
Weapons of mass destruction, right? they were serving their country because the Taliban, they were serving their country, whatever, and these people gave up their lives. And ask yourselves, for what? And the answer to that question is for the elites. They're like toy soldiers.
When you said that, were you aware of the repercussions if people dishonorably discharged?
So just to put this into context, this is like the
Shout
Q&A,
out to Happy
live
Life
Q&A
for
portion
gifting
of the
that
end of my
membership.
show.
Shout out to you, big dog.
Being facetious, but also being completely honest, that they should begin to consider, and that was somebody asking, what should we do? Like, should we leave the military because they also
do you regret
are
saying
recognizing that? No, I don't regret saying that. I don't
But you
regret
know the
having
She said she stand on it. She don't regret nothing.
Okay, well, I would imagine that the people that are in the military who were going to, if they were going to listen to my podcast and they were going to dishonorably discharge, that they would know the consequences. So it's completely ridiculous. And again, we see this over and over again where people can't answer the broader questions. They try to suddenly peg in, well, you said this one thing. No, the broader conversation that we are having.
It's not a small thing.
No, let me finish. Let me finish.
You're basically you're encouraging U.S. servicemen and women to dishonorably discharge.
You play a clip, and I'm trying to answer it. You can't do that. You ask a question.
Well, you're trying to downplay it,
and I'm responding. No, I am. No, you're trying to upplay it. Is what the issue is. This is exactly.
I'm just repeating what you said.
No, you're not. You're playing what I said, and I'm responding to it and telling you that the broader piece of that conversation, when you have troops that are now asking that question, is they are recognizing that America is in steep decline, that our military comes back and they are treated like dirt. That a lot of these men, and we're talking about decades, white American males come back and they're told that they're racist and they're treated like crap, that they're white supremacists, that they have a different vision for this country. So why are they dying in these overseas wars for Bibi Netanyahu? Okay, and let me again try to answer that question.
Hey, y'all know that I most definitely let y'all speak y'all minds, so feel free. Even if you don't agree with me, then let me know what y'all think about some of the things that y'all are hearing coming out of these people's mouths. We got let's just keep it real says, let's be clear. Candace was not for Trump this second time around. She was for DeSantis until he fell out. Only until Trump won the nomination was she with him, but didn't campaign for him. Okay, I bet. Let's continue.
I asked you at the beginning, which is, what has Zionism won America? What have these never ending? No, let me finish. Why won't you let me answer that? Why won't you let me actually say what people are recognizing? You come back and there are open borders and you're told that you are racist, okay? You come back and you're told that you are racist if you don't want open borders. Meanwhile, you're sent overseas to defend Israel's borders. It's a nonsense. And who's funding these open borders? According to Barry Weiss, and I quote, Barry Weiss said this verbatim, the Jewish connection to the refugee is not a conspiracy. That's something that we are very proud of. And she was referencing the organization HIAS, and she says it explicitly, which she said was started by them in the 1880s, which includes immigrants that have come in like Sergey Brin. They are still the organization that is operating at our border right now, okay? That is problematic.
I told him that, Gillian. That's exactly what Pierce did to the dude from Israel last night. He would not let him talk, just like Candace ain't letting him talk.
That we have open borders while we continually and routinely are told that we have to defend somebody else's borders, okay? And again, these never-ending wars in the Middle East at the behest of Israel. Bibi Netanyahu is the one that called for Americans to invade Iraq, Libya, Syria, Afghanistan, and now Iran, and we've done it. We're told Israel can defend itself, okay, but why do we have currently 2,000 troops that are in Syria under the guise of fighting ISIS? And like I said, we know Israel themselves fund terror-adjacent militants like they did to overthrow Assad. And we're done with the BS of, okay, well, they weren't really involved, Israel, in Afghanistan, because even when we fight those never-ending wars, Israel wins. Everybody knows that our boys were out there in Afghanistan guarding poppy fields, okay? And do you know what happened after we allegedly, quote unquote, lost in Afghanistan? What happened to all those poppy fields, those poppy flowers that our military was guarding? Well, the opioid crisis hit America via the Sackler family, who quite literally built the School of Medicine at Tel Aviv University. So we're just done, okay? And there's no way that we're going to go backwards. We're not going to allow you guys to emotionally condition us to go, oh, well, we got to protect Israel because of the Holocaust. It is over. They're imparting a Holocaust. America would like off this crazy train.
Woo, strong words.
Okay, for the benefit of viewers who don't know what I was talking about, under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, Article 90, dishonorable discharge can result in forfeiture of all pay and allowances up to 5 years confinement. which is a pretty heavy penalty to pay.
Yeah, I'd want my kids to go to jail before they fought for Israel. I'll say that honestly.
Okay.
I would. I have 3 sons, and I'm going to be honest.
Shale says, guess who she? Shale says, guess who she is going to complain about next? The very country she lives in. Let's talk about it.
Pierce, I'm glad you told me that consequence. I'd take that consequence any day to them being sent back over in a coffin because they died for Israel. So.
Okay, but yeah, I think the one thing you're missing, look, I come from a big military family, a lot of military in my family, and a lot of people fighting wars on behalf of the United States are not doing it because they think Bibi Netanyahu wants them to. They're doing it because
some of them do that, and they write into my show and I answer the question.
But many of them won't, and they might be offended by you suggesting that's the only reason they're doing it.
And they can watch your show, and they can be offended all they want, but I think it's more offensive.
We say, or they can watch your show. She's shooting slugs as well. Candace don't give no F's about what none of y'all think.
The way that our military is treated, the veterans are treated, and the gaslighting that takes place when we're told that we have to defend everybody's borders. But I
actually think America treats its veterans better than almost any country in the world.
I mean, this has always been an open conversation, and I'm just saying that if my boys were being drafted to fight this war in Iran, I would be like, you know what, honey, take the other option. And that's not because it's cowardice, it's because when you sign up for the military...
Okay, but I would say that the pilots,
you are pledging that you are doing something that is going to better your country.
But Candace, so far...
John says, let those countries fight their own battles. The U.S. needs to mind their own business. Let's go.
That our country has been in steep decline since we haven't part of this foreign policy, which is just whatever Israel wants.
Okay, but you made that point, but what I would say to you is the only people so far that have been involved from the American military were the extraordinarily courageous and skillful pilots who flew these B-2 bombers and attacked the nuclear sites and got back safely. So there's been no troops on the ground committed at all, no declaration of war by the United States.
All right, so we got, Scott says she will need to carve out a niche. The right will run, not walk, from her and Tucker. Let's talk about it.
Listen, I don't disagree with you. You bomb somewhere, you probably are at war with them. But there is no official declaration of war. Just as Trump, when he took out Soleimani and Baghdadi and he attacked Syria and so on, he didn't declare war on those places. And actually, it turned out that the apocalyptic warnings of those actions never materialized. So we shall see. I can't let you go without asking. Let me ask you just quickly about the Tucker-Ted Cruz debate. What did you make of that?
Fantastic. It is finally the debate that needed to happen in America, because a part of this nonstop policy is this belief, as you said, Ted Cruz, that if we just do whatever Israel wants, that God's going to bless you. And it's quite ironic because it comes from Protestants, and their normal argument is that the reason why
somebody said Candace and Tucker have become the woke right. Y'all think so? Really? All right, we got, we are spiritual Israel, and we don't go to battle. Okay, what does Candace know about being a veteran? Nothing. Let's talk about it.
Had to have this fracture in the church was because of indulgences. There's nothing more indulgent than I'm going to be blessed if I just do whatever Israel says. And so because we are finally having that spiritual conversation, which is more important, I suspect there's going to be major changes in the United States going forward. And that is why you're seeing this fracture in the base already.
Tucker, according to Donald Trump, Tucker rang Trump to apologize for some of the more strident rhetoric he's used against him recently. Are you done with Donald Trump, or could you see a way that you would end up perhaps voting for him? Oh, you can't
great question, Pierce, because she most definitely made that flip. He asked if she's still in support of Donald Trump. Let's see what she say.
Obviously, but would you support him publicly again?
So I want to be clear. I don't regret voting for Donald Trump above Kamala. I think he was the better candidate, certainly a better candidate above Joe Biden. But what I will say is that he's been a chronic disappointment, and I feel embarrassed that I told people to go vote for him because this wasn't going to happen. And I feel embarrassed that I told people to go vote for him because this wasn't going to happen. And I feel embarrassed that I told people to go vote for him because this wasn't going to happen, and it is happening.
If you had any doubt about what side Candace Owens on, I bet you know now. She said she was embarrassed. Lord have mercy. Hey, how y'all feel about that?
But I just think that the picture of politics in America is going to look very differently because of his actions. So I don't know where we go from here. I really don't. But this is not the candidate that I voted for.
If it turns out that his instinct...
Bell said, if I think she's insane, I'm a buy it. Let's go.
Right, that by doing what he did, it brings Iran to the negotiating table and they do a deal on their nuclear plans.
Yeah, blessed. At least she's honest
in that circumstance.
Yeah. I will always admit when I'm wrong. Anybody that listens to my podcast knows that. It just so happens to be that, especially if I come on to the Piers Morgan show and I make some predictions, that it ends up that I'm right. So I'm feeling lucky, but I will of course admit I'm wrong if that is the result.
Candice, always good to have your views on Uncensored. You know that. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, joining me now is the Chief Executive Officer of Blade Media.
So Candace said she said what she said.
May I say something just to start? Would we be having this debate in this way if Hamas would have done to England what they did to Israel? Would we be having this debate? Because I don't think we would. I think America would be over there. I think the whole world would be over there, and we'd pound them into sand until they surrendered. But I don't understand why we're having debates.
Whoa, pound them in the sand. Oh my goodness.
On actions that Barack Obama took, and nobody really said anything about it. They weren't screaming for an act of war. I know this is a very bad situation, and I hope to God. I mean, I'm glad that Donald Trump is our president, because I wouldn't have had the balls to do it. I think it was the right thing to do, but I wouldn't have had the balls to do it.
Well, it's really interesting because I know that historically, I mean, I'm not going to pick on you for this, but I happen to be the editor. It'll be obvious what I'm saying, but I was editor of the Daily Mirror newspaper, one of the big national papers in the UK, for many years, and I campaigned vociferously.
Hey, this Glenn Beck right here, he sure looked different from when he used to have a show. What happened to him? But anyway.
On the front page after front page against the Iraq war. And it was particularly contentious in the UK because we were the Labour supporting newspaper and Tony Blair was a Labour Prime Minister. So it was a huge sort of deal over here. And I know that you initially supported the Iraq war and then afterwards you later accepted that had been a mistake, which, again, is part of your strength, I think.
I think, Piers, you can't silence people when they're wrong because hopefully they're on the road to becoming right.
Yes.
But you only get that if you have a debate. And I will tell you that I was for Afghanistan. I was a very big, war hawk. Let's go in and just do it. Let's do it.
Am I tripping, or does he look a lot different than when I used to watch his show, man? He look a lot different to me, man. I guess he got older, man. Shout out to everybody in the building, man. Continue to double tap that screen, y'all. Get those likes up. We 30 away from 300, and we're like 20 subscribers away from 35K. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to the channel, man.
I'm not that way anymore because I've seen the pattern. It doesn't work out. America needs to mind its own business. We can't export what we have. I have hopes for the Middle East. I have hopes for Iran. I pray for the people in Iran. They're a very big danger, but, the one thing, again, I go back to Donald Trump.
Yeah,
I don't think he's been duped. In 2016,
let's talk about it, Heather.
He has told me he didn't really know what he was up against. He knows what he's up against now. He hates war, hates it. As much as he loves tariffs, he hates war. He has told me eye to eye about how he has redesigned
Guys, we just hit 35K. Shout out to everybody that's subscribing to the channel. Appreciate y'all. We made it. 35K, man. Continue to get those likes up. Shout out to the squad.
He had to rebuild our nuclear arsenal. And in a fashion that I've never seen Donald Trump, he said, Glenn, it can never be used. It is horrifying what can be done now. I know I helped rebuild it. It can never be used. He hates nuclear war. He hates regular war.
Yeah.
And I think he really believes he did the right thing, and I don't think he's being duped by it.
No, and it's interesting because I know that you were hoping he didn't do what he did. Now that he's done it, and obviously it's incredibly early days, and none of us can be sure what is going to happen, and I wouldn't even attempt to guess. But I certainly think that Trump's intentions were well-intentioned.
All right, so we got Heather. She said, I think Glenn got a good retirement package early. He supported that Oh my goodness, never mind, I ain't gonna read that. Shout out to 420 Lounge for being a member for the last 8 months. Let's go, bro, doing big things, absolutely. The truth is out. Says congratulations, here on 35K. Shout out to you, thank you for that super sticker.
I think he said for many years that Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon, and he genuinely believed that enriching their uranium stocks from 3.5% to 60% was a dangerous escalation that could only be heading one way. And so he's taken the same action that he did when he took out Soleimani or Baghdadi, when he attacked Syria, when he dropped big bombs in Afghanistan. You know, he's done things strategically as he sees it, without actually committing large number of American troops on the ground.
You also have to look
way to
this.
get him
Every
in
single president since Clinton has said this, okay? Iran has killed more Americans as a nation than I think any other nation has. They've been an enemy. Every single president has said they cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Man, didn't he? Is it to her? I think he used to be bald-headed, if I'm not tripping. I thought he had a bald head, now he got her. Maybe that's what's throwing me off. You know, but this is most definitely Glenn Beck giving his perspective on Israel, you know, in Iran, guys. But they said facts. Did he used to have a bald head? Let me know if I'm tripping. But I think he used to have a bald head. Maybe it's the hair that's throwing me off.
I don't want to go to war with Iran. I don't want any of this. However, you know, when you talk to a B-2 bomber, which I did over the weekend, they have been running this particular run for 15 years plus. We built in White Sands, we built a model of that reactor. This bomb that we dropped, we're the only ones with it in the world. It was made for those reactors, specifically for those reactors. It is so accurate, it can hit the top of a pop can or a Coke can from 50,000 feet. It had to go into a 10 by 10 foot vent. They have been running this over and over again. That's not Donald Trump. That's the American policy. We know that these people are serious when they say they're going to burn first the Jews in the Islamic fiery furnace and then America. We're the great Satan. They have been a threat of ours for a long time.
No, we're not.
I wish we could have negotiated.
No, we're not. America is not the great Satan. No, we're not. Don't say that. Take it back. No, we're not. No, we're not. You know what I'm saying? I'm most definitely not no Satan. What you talking about, Glenn? Maybe they feel like that because they have been chanting unalive to America, you know, but that's crazy, man. But he got a good point. Let's go.
Negotiated our way, but it didn't happen. So now we're here. Now what do we do?
Well, as we're talking,
we're not.
I'm just going to read this to you. Reuters and AFP are reporting explosions over Doha. So we're talking Monday evening UK time, Monday afternoon your time in the States. Iranian media saying Iran is attacking US bases in both Qatar and Iraq. And this follows BBC and Fox News reporting credible and imminent threats of Iranian missile attacks on US-run air bases.
Michelle say you can't fix
that's just breaking as you and I are talking. But clearly that would be a significant escalation. If Iran is targeting US air bases now in the Middle East, what do you think that means as we progress forward?
Oh, it's the glasses. Okay, Yana. I knew it was something. I ain't know if he used to have a bald head, but it was something that had him looking different. So he took off his glasses. That may be what it is, Yana. Shout out to you, y'all. We just hit 35K. It's a celebration.
I don't know. I've been saying to my audience, pray for peace, but prepare for war. This is a war that I think is coming one way or another. I mean, look at the state of Europe, look at the state of England, look at the state of America. I mean, this is a war with Islamists, not Muslims, Islamists, that is going to happen at some point. I think we're at the beginning of a 50-year war with Islamists. And it's disturbing to me. And the reason why is we're not clear. None of our countries, Donald Trump will, but none of our countries will even name what we're against. They won't say it. You know, what I complimented you for doing on this show is actually saying what the truth is and letting all sides. Our governments are silencing, and I think it's because they're afraid. But it's a war that is absolutely coming, and the problem is...
We ain't afraid of anything. No, we're not. Come on, Glenn.
is I remember I sat in the Oval Office during the Gulf War, the Iraqi War, with George Bush, and he was reading me the Riot Act because I wasn't happy about the way things were going. And he said to me, I said, you know, you got an election coming up, and what do you think these guys are going to do? And he said something, and he tried to make me feel better, and this actually made me feel horrible. He said, Glenn, don't worry about it. No matter who wins, when they sit behind this desk, they'll be advised by the same voices, and they'll realize they have no other options. I left that office thinking, then why do we elect?
Are y'all agreeing with Glenn Beck right now? I don't know, man. I'm kind of on the fence with him. He called us the great Satan. No, we're not. I don't know, man. I don't know about Glenn these days. He might need to put his glasses back on.
President, what is happening? We have to break this cycle. Hopefully, this we're not being lulled into something or pulled into something.
Yeah, let's go. Let's remember what Trump said.
Israel says that Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Let's go, Trump. Trump put it on the hey. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Let's go.
That is, you know, long planned. Hopefully, we can end this quickly and return to some normalcy in all of our countries. But we have to face the truth.
Yeah, I think I completely concur with you. And like I said, whilst I can absolutely understand why Donald Trump did what he did, and while I think there's a compelling argument that Iran was fast accelerating its way to a nuclear weapon, which everybody basically agrees, apart from Iran and its allies, would be a very bad thing for the world. Once you do strike in the way that the United States struck with these bunker buster bombs, you cannot then control the way the narrative plays out. You don't know how the receiving end of that is going to respond.
I think that that our side is hoping that they are so weakened that
says congratulations on that 35K.
They don't have much fight left in them.
Thank you for that 10 piece.
I would hope that. However, if I said on Friday or Saturday when it happened that if somebody did that to us and just blew up one of our bases in the United States.
Hold up, Glenn. We got some breaking news, guys. Hold up. You know what I'm saying? Because reports are saying, that America did not destroy Israel's nuclear sites. I mean, Iran's nuclear sites, guys. Hold on. We gotta most definitely dip here real quick, and then I'll bring us back to that.
Right, welcome back in here to Live Now from Fox. I am Andy Mack. We're learning more about the success of the U.S. airstrikes on those 3 Iranian nuclear sites on Saturday. And I want to put this up here on Live Now from Fox from Meg Kennard, the Associated Press, saying early U.S. intelligence reports suggest the U.S. strikes only set back Iran's nuclear program by a few months. This, according to the Associated Press. And we're also hearing from different members of the Trump administration about some of this. You can see from Aisha Hasni, Fox News reporter, saying the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, responding to it, saying, quote, based on everything we have seen, and I've seen it all, our bombing campaign obliterated Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons. Our massive bombs hit exactly the right spot at each target and work perfectly. The impact of those bombs is buried under a mountain of rubble in Iran. So anyone who says the bombs were not devastating is just trying to undermine the president and the successful mission.
Oh, man.
Comments from Caroline Leavitt, the White House Press Secretary denying reports that the Iran nuclear facilities are intact. So, of course, we'll follow this here on Live Now Fox and hear from more.
They saying we did not destroy their stuff, guys. Man, that is crazy. Hold on real quick. Wait. Hold on. There's more. That ain't it. It's another one. Yeah, man. Hold on. We have to interrupt Glenn right then. Breaking news. They said we did
according
not.
to an early U.S. intelligence assessment, the U.S. military strikes on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities last weekend did not destroy the core components of the country's nuclear program and likely only set it back a few months.
That's right. So this is an assessment that actually is out from the Defense Intelligence Agency. That is the Pentagon's intelligence arm. And it was based on a battle damage assessment conducted by U.S. CENTCOM after the strikes, according to one of the sources. Let's go to CNN national security correspondent Natasha Bertrand, who has this exclusive new reporting. This is to that question.
They're saying we did not destroy it. Oh, man.
That has been asked about how much damage has been done. This is a real question. It's also a political question that has been to something that Donald Trump has been sort of dealing with here recently. What are you learning, Natasha?
Yeah, look, Brianna, this is the first assessment that we are getting that the U.S. intelligence community has found about the battle damage that resulted from those U.S. military strikes on these 3 Iranian nuclear facilities over the weekend. And as you said, it was produced by the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is the Pentagon's intelligence arm. And it is worth noting that it is a very early.
What other media would I listen to, guy? Why you talking about you are listening to the American media? I'm American. What other would I listen to? What are you talking about? How about you go get us some facts and send it to my Instagram then while you down there talking about somebody listening to the American media? I'm American, guy. I'm in America. What else would I listen to? Make it make sense. You silly, dog. You silly.
Assessment. The strikes were only a matter of days ago, and the intelligence community is still gathering intelligence. They are still working to come up with a full, comprehensive picture of what exactly happened here. But based on a battle damage assessment that was carried out by U.S. Central Command, essentially looking at the images and looking at what was actually damaged, the Defense Intelligence Agency has assessed that the core components of Iran's nuclear program are largely intact.
What are you talking about? Talking about you might be American, but that's not what they're saying. It says right here on your screen, U.S. strikes on Iran did not destroy nuclear sites. Can you read? I think not. I think you just talking, man. Be quiet before I deport you.
And that Iran's nuclear program has essentially only been set back by months. Now, we presented this information to the White House for comment, and White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, she did acknowledge the existence of this assessment, but she said in a statement that the administration disagrees with it. She said, quote, "This alleged assessment is flat out wrong and was classified as top secret, but was still leaked to CNN by an anonymous low-level loser in the intelligence community. The leaking of this alleged assessment is a clear attempt to demean President Trump and discredit the brave fighter pilots who conducted a perfectly executed mission to obliterate Iran's nuclear
Brian, this ain't Fox. This is CNN. What is wrong with you? They're reporting the same thing on all channels. What's wrong with y'all, man? Some of y'all are just clueless. Do you believe that you got a right and a left thumb? Do you believe that? Look at your hand and tell me if you got a right or and a left thumb. Do you believe it? Y'all will be over here telling me I only got 4 fingers instead of 5. Stop playing with me, dog.
Program. Everyone knows what happens when you drop 14 30,000-pound bombs perfectly on their targets, total obliteration. Now, it is worth noting here that there has been dissent, I should say, within the intelligence community, within the defense community about just how much of an impact these massive bunker buster bombs would actually have on Iran's nuclear facilities. It was far from certain, given that these bombs had never been tested in an actual combat scenario, whether they would actually penetrate those very, very deep underground tunnels that lie underneath these nuclear facilities. And what we are told is that as of now, this Defense Intelligence Agency assessment, it does conclude at this point, again, it is still very early, that those underground facilities, including the centrifuges, including the highly enriched uranium that everyone has been talking so much about, those are largely intact. Now, of course, this does stand at odds with what President Donald Trump and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth have been saying in recent days about the impact of these U.S. military strikes. Of course, President Trump said it was totally obliterated. And Secretary Hegseth did as well. And he actually also provided CNN with a statement
And he said that, quote, based on everything we have seen, and I've seen it all, our bombing campaign obliterated Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons. Our massive bombs hit exactly the right spot at each target and worked perfectly. The impact of those bombs is buried under a mountain of rubble in Iran. So anyone who says the bombs were not devastating is just trying to undermine the president and the successful mission. Now, our sources did emphasize here that there was severe damage that was done largely to the above ground structures at these nuclear sites. And so there was damage done, of course, by these massive bombs. But the core components of the nuclear program, we are told, they are largely intact, and it only set the program back by a matter of months. Boris, Brianna.
Natasha Bertrand, please stand by. Let's go now.
Y'all heard what she said, didn't you? Y'all heard what she said. Now go over there and argue with the major news networks that are putting this out. Go argue with them. Don't come over here telling me, oh, you believe what they're saying, man? Look, I'm just putting the information out. You go do your own research.
Live to CNN anchor and chief White House correspondent Caitlin Collins, who's traveling with President Trump as he attends a NATO summit from the Netherlands. Caitlin, you heard the statement there from the White House. They acknowledged the existence of this assessment, but said that they disagreed with it and then attacked the sourcing behind it. What are you hearing?
Yeah, and I think it's notable that when we reached out to the White House for comment on what Natasha and Katie Bowe had been hearing here from these sources about this initial assessment, that they provided statements not only from Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, obviously, who is designed to respond to media reports, but also from the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth himself, given he is on the record talking about what he believes the results of these strikes were here. Now, the issue here at hand is obviously this is an initial assessment. We're still waiting for a comprehensive assessment to be done. And as Natasha mentioned there, certainly more information could come to light. And that is how this works as they are in the early days of assessing this. But if this is the assessment that stands as it is right now and what the DIA found, according to this report, that undermines what President Trump has been saying publicly about the result and the impact of these strikes and what they had on Iran's nuclear program. Just this morning, he has been quite defensive about this, saying it's not enough in his view to just say that they were sufficiently damaged. He is saying they were completely destroyed and obliterated, and he's been defending the B-2 bombers and the pilots flying those B-2s that took these bombs over to Iran on Saturday night and dropped them on top of these nuclear sites at great lengths, as he did as he was leaving the White House today. So certainly it would undermine and undercut what the president himself has been saying. But I do think, as Natasha mentioned there, this is an early and preliminary assessment, as they're still waiting to see what the other findings show. But this was the big question going into this. And I had actually asked President Trump this when we were on Air Force One last week coming back from Canada, because the bombs that were used here, Boris and Brianna, had never been used in combat before. Yes, they'd been heavily tested, but they'd never actually been dropped on any site before. And the question I had
for this was new to us. Okay, all right, I'm getting it.
President was, did he have assurances or any guarantees that conducting these U.S. strikes would actually take out Iran's nuclear program? He told me there were no guarantees in life, but obviously that's a key question that we were told he was also asking his officials behind the scenes, is how would this play out? What would this look like? Because as we know, the president, even with military action in his first term, does go through these assessments in a pretty thorough manner to want to know what the other end of this is going to look like.
Yeah, and certainly this is something, Caitlin, just put into context, because President Trump is there in the Netherlands, as you are there following this very important NATO summit, and he has been, projecting this great success. He's also there at this summit that is so much tailored to him. He's riding a little bit of a high as he's there. So any sort of perceived slight to what he considers a great success, and so far the holding of this at least brief ceasefire so far, how is he going to perceive that?
Yeah, and the president has been at NATO summits before where things did not go well. I mean, everyone remembers the Brussels summit of his first term, where he walked out of the room at one point. So often when he comes to these, and there is a new NATO Secretary General this time, who was sending the president messages earlier today that Trump was then posting screenshots of on Truth Social, saying that they were essentially waiting for his arrival here, as he just arrived a few hours ago. A lot of this is going to focus on defense spending. A lot of it's going to focus on Russia as well. The Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, is going to be here for his meeting with the president. It is only their second meeting since that fiery Oval Office meeting that happened a few months ago. And so that is something everyone's going to be watching closely. But the fact that the key takeaway here is, going into these summits, they largely decide what they're going to talk about beforehand. Though obviously when President Trump is in the room, as his own aides will very, very well and readily concede, things can change and you don't always know what the outcome is going to be. But the fact that it is tailored to be on defense spending, which is his chief complaint with NATO countries, that they do not spend enough on defense, does show the impact that he has on the conversations that are held at summits like this one. But he was wanting to come into this with the ceasefire brokered between Israel and Iran. That was in part due to his anger that we saw this morning coming out of the White House. And so that is something we'll see how he talks about when he's here meeting with these other world leaders, as he's doing right now.
All right, so basically that's what they said about that. Let's get back over here to Glenn Beck, guys. Shout out to everybody in the building. I just wanted to bring y'all that because I had just seen it. Whether you believe that they took them all the way out or they didn't, the news is most definitely reporting that they did not, allegedly, take out all of Iran's nuclear capabilities, guys.
Here in our continental U.S., we would declare that's a declaration of war.
Yeah.
And why would we expect them not to feel that way? The only hope is they're so weakened that it can end quickly.
Yeah, I don't think
I don't know.
I mean, I think this attempt to try and pretend it's not a declaration of war, I don't think that flies. I mean, I posted on X, this is America saying it's at war with Iran, right? I mean, you drop 30,000-pound bombs all over the place on nuclear sites in a foreign country. You are
except
it's a declaration
we've done
of
that
war.
before. Except we've done that before in other cases, and nobody's had this reaction. But it's not Iran and Israel. For some reason, that's just totally different for everybody.
I mean, what's strange about that whole thing is if you go back into the not too distant past of Iran and Israel, before the revolution in 79, they got on pretty well. It's like a lot of these relationships have been contaminated in the last 40, 50 years.
So I'm doing a show Thursday, Piers, that I'm glad you brought this up because I was just talking to my producers about the direction I want to go in, and that is look at Europe today, look at England today, then look at
Let's go.
Iran 1977, 1975. Look, nobody was wearing hijabs, nothing like that. And in 1979, it's over, it's lights out. We can't ignore the poison of Islamists in our own society. We all think that it's not going to happen. It can't happen, but it can. All we have to do is make the distinction between Islamist and a Muslim. One is our enemy. The other is a practitioner of a religion.
I mean, I would expand that to say it's extremism, right? Extremism of any kind should be condemned by all right-thinking people because extremism is never the right way, just by the very
when are we going to do that?
By the very definition of the word. You are an extremist.
Isn't that in some ways exactly what Donald Trump did? Took a clear line. We've had president after president say, we're not going to let this stand. He does it, and now he's the extremist? I don't know. I think he's standing up.
Hold on, man. Trump said when y'all talk about him, put some respect on his name. You know what I'm saying? What he said. And what Trump said, he said, put some respect on his name. He said, listen.
I ain't gonna say it no more. Put some respect on my name. You understand me? When y'all saying my name, put some respect on it. Y'all finished or y'all done? I ain't got no more talking. That's right.
All right.
Yeah, Trump said put some respect on his name. All three of y'all.
For what he believes is coming.
Glenn, what's fascinating, watching the conservative right in the last few weeks has been fascinating for the real schism that's been developing now. What do you make of that? There's always been disagreement, but never quite, it seems to me, on such implacable levels as we're seeing right now, where people are really one way or the other.
I've
never seen anything. I'm friends with Ted Cruz. I'm friends with Tucker Carlson. I like both of them. I know Donald Trump. I don't know Elon Musk, but I like both of them. Stop making me choose. I don't think this is helpful for the Republic. We can disagree on things, but to have these arguments that we're having, I mean, I'm sorry. I've known Candace Owens for a long time. I don't know what happened to Candace. She's off on a different planet now. to deny
Candace is most definitely off board, Glenn. She most definitely on some other stuff.
Mangala and everything else is truly horrifying. But
respect. Let's go,
there's a lot of people that I disagree with that I can still have conversations with. I think this is, in many ways, intentional. We're all being driven to these extremes, and it's either you are this or you are that, and there's nothing in between. That's not real life. All life has nuance. There's no way to navigate. There's no way to defend ourselves, our culture, if we all must be 100% this or 100% that.
And you know what? And I genuinely believe it's been fueled by social media, because what social media does, it fuels tribalism, where people, in the end, they become so tribal, and their echo chamber keeps reinforcing this one singular worldview, that when facts change, they don't want to accept it. If it is negative to their tribe, and it reminds me, I read a book about this several years ago, where I talked about, if you go back to 2,000 years, you would have genuine tribes, right, in the world. And they would be on their own, and they would dress a certain way, and they would cut their hair a certain way, they would eat certain food, they would drink certain drinks, they would have a language which they understood, and they would stay pretty much in their own area amongst themselves. So they only ever knew one way. And then slowly but surely, these tribes edged out and began to travel more, and they encountered other tribes. And these other tribes looked a bit different, they sounded a bit different, they maybe ate different food, they laughed at different things. And these tribes concluded in that experimental moment that the only solution was to kill each other. And I look at what happens on social media now, and it's pretty much the same thing, where the tribes are so locked in to supporting their own side against any invader, as they put it, that even when there is something which self-evidently their own side
agree
should
with
condemn,
Piers Morgan.
whether it's the right or left, that they can't bring themselves to do it. They will fall over themselves to explain, to justify, to excuse, because they feel like they're betraying their tribe.
So I completely agree with that, but I'd like to add one more thing. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and you tell yourself lies and lies and lies and lies, and you get to a point to where at some point you have to reject almost everything you are to tell the truth. And it becomes that you might know, I can't keep living this way. I can't keep living this way. But you have to reject everything that you have built. And that's the problem with these tribes, is we have separated ourselves. And for me to not hate you, I have to reject almost everything that I have built in my own life, because I'm built on hating you now. That is a really dangerous place. And we're there. And we have to recognize Western civilization, beyond that. In the Bible, when the Jews go down into Israel, the Lord says, choose life. That is the choice. It is life or death. There is a culture of death through many different factions, if you will. Death or life. We've got to choose life. And the Western civilization has always been about life. If we can't find our way to each other and say, look, I reject this death cult, we're not going to survive. No. And if we don't survive, the world becomes a very dark place. And I don't mean the United States. I mean the entire Western world.
Yeah, and I think that this is why I found what Elon Musk calls the woke mind virus so damaging, because it fueled all that stuff, and often on a kind of preposterous denial of even basic biology and science. And when people started trying to defend the fact that biological men were in women's sport, I was like, we've lost our minds here.
We most definitely don't need men in women's sports. I don't know even where that even comes into equation. I agree with them on that. We most definitely don't need men in women's sports. That's crazy.
Going on.
And isn't it amazing? The guy who was the biggest on the left, he was a hero for what he did for the environment and electric cars and everything else. The minute he disagrees with them politically, he's dead to them. And they try to destroy his business. They burn his cars. They'd like to kill him. That should tell you something. You're on the wrong side when that is your reaction.
And also, if you're behaving exactly the same way that you profess to condemn in others, that should tell you it's time to look in the mirror and work out what you're really about. What is your soul actually doing? If you spend all day shrieking one thing and then you behave exactly the same way yourself.
Piers, I have to tell you, I think about England a lot. I pray for England a lot. I don't know if I'm getting on my social media what it's really like in England, but I've seen a difference when I was in London just in 3 years. I was there 3 years ago. I was just there recently, and there is a difference there. And if we don't
I'm gonna tell you this, I love how y'all people come in and y'all be like, yeah, man, dang, you believe what Fox says, or dang, man, you believe what CNN says, or don't listen to MSNBC. But they the ones that's putting the information out for you guys who go research it and find out what's going on and, you know, figure out what y'all believe. You know, y'all first turn to mainstream media to even know, to go look it up. So make it make sense. What's up, Summer Marie? You know what I'm saying? Y'all may not believe what they saying, but y'all can't dispute that they put the information out for y'all to go research and basically debunk what they're saying or agree with what they're saying. How about that?
Find a way to wake up, stand up, and bring people to their senses calmly and rationally. All of our countries are going to fall like dominoes soon.
Well, the big problem
Brian, please chill out, man. We are not racist over here. We don't care about none of that stuff, man. We're not racist. We love everybody on this channel. I don't care what your ethnicity is. You know, you're all good, man. Feel free to state your opinions, but most definitely keep it respectful in this chat before you get deported. And it don't matter what color your skin is.
And with England is, look, there are many great qualities of England. I think it's been massively overblown. And people like Tommy Robinson and these guys, they are not people that should be taken seriously in this debate, in my estimation. However, notwithstanding that, the insidious attacks on free speech in England have been really, really staggering and alarming to watch. When you get people, you know, grandmothers being locked up for something they posted on Facebook and then delete it because they thought I shouldn't have done that. That's not what a democratic society like the UK should be doing to anybody. You know, I think that obviously we all know, I think, in our gut what the exceptions to free speech are. If you're literally inciting people to kill people, fine. We can all agree that is wrong, right? But when you're expressing a vehement opinion because you may be emotionally overwrought about something, which is genuinely horrific, and you're just spewing off,
or you're just wrong,
and you then calm down and delete that, whatever, and then you're put in prison.
All right, so on this debate between Glenn Beck and Piers Morgan, who y'all feel like got the better conversation right now, spitting the most facts? Let me know. Yeah, that's crazy.
2 years. I just think that is basically, then you're into North Korea, Russia, and everything else, where any criticism of the state does that.
Which brings me right back to where we started. Thank you for having people I strongly disagree with. I disagreed with both of those guests that you just had on. Thank you for having them on. I have to see that. We all have to see that. We have to exercise the muscle of curiosity and intelligence and calmness while listening to people we vehemently disagree.
Yeah, and you know, just final point, but on the guy, the Israeli minister, the reason I was so annoyed was one of the devices used to silence legitimate debate about this is you call somebody something ending in ik or ist. So if you said the biological men in women's sport thing was a problem, you were immediately transphobic. You know, and similarly, if you've criticized Israel's recent strategy in Gaza, which most people find pretty indefensible, even if you've been someone like me that stuck his neck out to defend Israel for many, many months and their right to defend themselves, even if I've tried to be really fair and impartial and go after both sides where I felt they're wrong, that any semblance of criticizing the Israeli government strategy meant I must be anti-Semitic and a Jew hater. And I was really incensed by that. And so when he came on...
Yeah, he was. He talking about last night when he went off on the minister of Israel about calling him an anti-Semitic. Yeah, he didn't like that. He stepped all over that dude. I ain't gonna lie to y'all.
To pretend that isn't what he was saying, and that it was about, you know, one or two guests or whatever. That's not what he posted. He was doing that deliberately to try and silence me. And I find that a really insidious thing too.
I agree with you. I've been called the same thing. I bring up George Soros, and suddenly I am an anti-Semite.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Candace Owens brings up the Jewish cabal, and nobody's going to say anything about that. I mean, it's so ridiculous.
Yeah,
so ridiculous.
It is. Glenn, great to talk to you.
But not only did he get on Pierce, he got on. He brought up Candace Owens too. The Israel minister did. He brought up both of them. You know what I'm saying? He didn't appreciate that one bit.
Thank you.
Come back soon. I always really enjoy our conversation.
All right, so next we got Bill O'Reilly, guys.
Well, I'm now joined by host of No Spin News on YouTube and author of new book, Confronting Evil, Bill O'Reilly. Bill, great to have you back on Uncensored.
Yeah, I got to get a sweater like Beck. You know, I got to get rid of this tie. So, and he's tanned. You notice that? He's tanned. I don't know what Beck is doing. I don't know if he's working as hard as he should work.
Let's unfortunately talk about more serious matters. What the hell is going on, Bill?
Well, what do you want to know? You want to know history? You want to know Western civilization? You want to know terrorism? I mean,
well, no, let me start. Well, first of all, just a direct question. Do you think Donald Trump was right to attack Iran with the bunker buster bombs?
Well, he did the right thing. History will unfold to see if it was the right strategy. I'm not hedging. The right thing is that if you have an enemy, and certainly Iran is America's enemy, and that enemy is saying we want to kill you, you don't get them in a position where they can kill you with a nuclear weapon. That's not real complicated. And throughout history, bellicose nations that have threatened other nations have always paid a price. So Iran's paying a price. Now, the problem is that Donald Trump is not widely accepted in the world. And whatever he does brings much more scrutiny than, say, a Barack Obama. But history shows that the American presidents have acted pretty much in accord to what Mr. Trump did.
Mm. Yeah, and certainly this idea that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tried to put out, that somehow this was unconstitutional and he'd gone without congressional approval. You know, as I quickly pointed out to her, almost every decision to order airstrikes by an American president this century, certainly, has been done without pre-approval from Congress.
That's because you have a 60-day window, and that window is put in there because of the alacrity of some situations. You have to take care of them. You don't have to squabble publicly about whether you should get B-2s out of Missouri. I mean, then the enemy knows what you're doing. So look, I'm not in a business to attack people personally. I know there's a lot of people on the internet that do that, and they make a lot of money doing it. I don't do it. But Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is simply not smart enough to hold a position of responsibility in America. She's not.
Bill, as we're talking,
Gillian, where is it at, Gillian? Let me know, because I don't
US
see it.
bases in Qatar, in Doha, and others. It's still a little bit murky about what's exactly been going on. Iranian media says Iran's begun its mighty and victorious response to US strike at the weekend. Quote, Iran will not leave any attack on its territorial integrity, sovereignty, and national security unanswered under any circumstances. Qatar is saying, as we're talking, which is Monday night, no casualties from attack on US airbase, but it reserves the right to respond directly and in accordance with international law. There certainly have been widespread reports of explosions over Doha. So something is clearly going on here in terms of retaliation. How concerned are you about the potential for this to escalate into a much wider war?
I'm always concerned about that. Everybody should be. But what's a choice? So the mullahs have to save face. They're tottering now. If the army turns against them, they'll be overthrown. Persian people don't want them there, generally speaking. The economy's a mess. They're killers. Why would you want them to lead your nation? The only reason that they have power is because Iran's a police state. They'll pick you up and they'll put you in a camp, or they'll kill you if you dissent against the government. So they have a low-level capacity to fire some missiles at U.S. air bases. The Pentagon was certainly aware that probably would happen. And it's up to Donald Trump to respond. I hope he uses restraint. We could take them out, we being the United States, in what, 5 hours? All you got to do is knock out their ports and the people will starve to death. And Trump has not done that.
This is Bill O'Reilly.
Didn't. And he's restraining Netanyahu in Israel. Trump, and I know that to be true. I have unique access to the Trump administration, as you may know. Trump has been a restraining voice on Netanyahu. So there are a lot of things in play. You got to figure that the mullahs are about as desperate as any human being could get at this point. They could go at any time, and they're trying to save face with some kind of reaction. That's not going to matter much.
In terms of how wide this could get, Donald Trump posted on Monday a response to the former Russian president, Medvedev. He said, did I hear former President Medvedev from Russia casually throwing around the M-word nuclear and saying that he and other countries would support nuclear warheads to Iran? Did he really say that? Or was it just a figment of my imagination? If he did say that, and if confirmed, please let me know immediately. The M-word should not be treated so casually. I guess that's why Putin's the boss. And I read what Medvedev said. It was quite interesting on two levels. One, that he was suggesting that now the fact that Iran has been developing nuclear weapons should be out in the open and discussed. In other words, it was some kind of secret that we now didn't have to pretend was a secret, which I thought was quite a significant omission, actually, by the Russians. But also just this casual threat that there are plenty of countries out there that will come along and supply Iran with nuclear weapons if necessary. What do you make of that? Should we take it seriously?
Well, you take everything the Russians say seriously because Putin's psychotic. And he threatened to use nukes in Ukraine. But any country that supplies nuclear weapons to Iran is going to be a pariah, have enormous sanctions slapped on them immediately.
Absolutely, I agree with you, Bill O'Reilly. Yeah, he's going to most definitely put sanctions on them if you try to help them. Let's talk about it.
And we'll probably go bankrupt. So this is what the Russians do. I mean, they want to create havoc in the West. They say a whole bunch of stuff. I would be very surprised if any country, including Russia, supplies the mullahs with a nuclear weapon. That would be pretty much saying to the world, F you, and the world is going to reply to that.
What do you make, Bill, of you've been at the forefront of conservative media in America for decades. What do you make of the split in the conservative right in America now, where you've got a very MAGA-oriented, keep out of all these foreign engagements, all these foreign wars. We don't want any of this. America first, America first. And then you have other, possibly more pragmatic members of the conservative right who recognize that occasionally you do have to get involved, whether you want to or not. Where do you sit? Where do you sit? And what do you feel about the rising split, as seen by the Tucker Carlson Ted Cruz interview?
I'm not a conservative. I'm a registered independent, and I take positions that I believe are beneficial to the country, and I don't really care where they come from. So that's my profile. That's why I've been successful for 50 years in this business. If a conservative does something ridiculous and foolish, I will absolutely say that. I don't root, I report. So right now, the vast majority of the American people support the bombing of Iran because Iran is an enemy. You briefly mentioned my upcoming book in September, Confronting Evil. Well, Ayatollah Khomeini and Putin are on the cover of that book, along with Adolf and Mao. And then there are 12 other heinous individuals inside. You're not in there, Morgan, so you missed the cut.
Wow, phew. Thank you, Bill.
But I don't really spend a lot of time on who's fighting who. Yes, it's amusing, but does it matter?
Bill, what are you saying, guy? Man, you're off topic. Let's go. Get back on topic, Bill. What are you talking about?
No, it doesn't matter. Americans, most of them, are smart enough to make up their own minds. There's about 30% of Americans that are avid supporters of Donald Trump. Most Americans are traditional, and the Democratic Party has gone far left in this country, which is why they're getting hammered. It's not so much their policies, it's their attitude. Americans don't want trans this, and they just don't want it. It's never going to happen. But when you get into really who's a serious player, there are only a handful of people in the American culture that matter. The movie stars don't matter. Okay, the sports people don't matter. I mean, they matter in their industries, but they don't matter as far as swaying public opinion. That's over. That's gone. The social media destroyed all of that. So nobody gets up in the morning and says, gee,
let's go, Bill.
What O'Reilly says, that's what I'm going to believe.
You might be right about that.
What Americans now are searching for is fact-based analysis.
Absolutely.
They'd like to get the truth. Without all
we want the truth. We want all the facts. We don't want the mumbo jumbo. None of that. We just want the truth.
Garbage. Without all the ideology, without all the hidden agendas. And when you look at, these nitwits calling the War Powers Act, the worst is Senator Charles Schumer. What a blanket hypocrite that guy is. And I used to like him because I'm a New Yorker. When Obama bombed Libya, and leading to Gaddafi's death, Schumer supported it and said nothing about it. Hillary Clinton was the cheerleader on that act. No War Powers Act. So that's Libya. This is Iran, Senator. What's the deal here? Can't explain it. And most Americans see through that. They see through the hypocrisy on both sides. And they're rejecting it, thank God.
You, like me, have regular contact with Donald Trump. We knew him long before he ever ran for politics. We've known him through both his 10 years now. This one, obviously, quite early days so far. How do you feel he is second time round, Bill? How do you categorize President Trump Mark II?
Much better. The first 2 years of his first term, he just didn't know, trusting the wrong people. He was listening to too many people. Donald Trump, I've known him 35 years. He has never misled me. And you know me, I ask direct questions.
Yeah.
So he has never misled me.
So Bill O'Reilly
and because of my association with him, I wrote a book called The United States of Trump, which is widely read in the Communist Politburo in Beijing. And 3 weeks ago, I was invited to address the communists in Beijing, which I did. And it was off the record, but I told them I have to brief President Trump when I get back to the States, unless you guys throw me in a gulag and I can't get back. But that wouldn't be fun. You don't want to hang with me. So it was an extraordinary experience because what I brought there was a deep knowledge of President Trump. And I could explain to the highest levels of the Chinese government. And their questions were, well, if we do this, what will President Trump do? And I could answer that fairly accurately without guessing. But to be in that position, and I didn't solicit that. They came to me.
Bill O'Reilly, guys, and his take on what's going on.
And to be in that position where I'm a journalist, but I'm also now almost a diplomat. And that wasn't the first time that happened. I was involved with the hostages in Gaza and other things. And I take it very seriously, extremely seriously. And I can't report everything. It's a lot. When it's off the record, I honor that. But my access to the president has been a very positive experience for me and my followers, because I can pass on information I know is accurate.
Does he always, do you think, tell you the truth, or does sometimes he want...
Never misled me, not one time in 35 years. Now, he doesn't tell me everything. I didn't know that on Saturday night he was going to go in and wax the Iranians. I did not...
Nobody knew that.
I know that, okay? Because I'm not on the phone with him every day. I never call him, by the way. I don't intrude. All right, if he calls me and asks my opinion, I give it to him, like I did with Barack Obama and Bush the Younger. They both solicited my opinion as well. But never has Donald Trump said one thing to me that didn't happen or was not accurate.
How do you think he would like to be remembered by the end of this second term as a president?
As one of the greatest presidents. He's all over me for confronting the presidents, the book I have out now. He's all over me on that book. He goes, where am I in the rankings of the presidents? And I said, yeah, it's undetermined. You got 3.5 years. You could screw up beyond belief. You could be down there with Andrew Johnson or his cousin Lyndon Johnson, both disastrous
That's
presidents.
crazy.
Or if the tariff thing works, you could rework the economy so that the American people wages rise, and you can, impose peace upon the world, then you're going to be in the top 10. So that thing is, but he wants to be on Mount Rushmore. There's no more room, but he'll buy his own mount. Put his face up there.
He will. Bill O'Reilly, always great to have you on our censor. Thank you very much.
All right, you know what I'm saying? So that was Candace Owens, Glenn Beck, and Bill O'Reilly on Piers Morgan, basically saying how they feel about the situation going on with Israel and Iran and America's involvement. Whether you agree with them or disagree with them, they most definitely had great debate. They gave great points, you know what I'm saying? And I'm glad they all gathered up to give us some of this information, guys. All right, so before we go, I got one more for y'all, man. And it's Israel basically saying, hey, man, if Iran doesn't attack during this ceasefire, then we won't. The ball is in Iran's court, guys. Check this one out. Hold on, let me pull it up. Before we get up out of here, man. You know what I'm saying? So they're basically saying, hey, it's a ceasefire. Israel is saying, hey, we cease fire. Just as long as Iran doesn't attack us, we won't attack them. Let's go.
Netherlands right now, where President Trump is set to land there shortly. Any time between the next 20-45 minutes or so, he should be touching down there. We are awaiting his arrival, obviously, for this NATO summit, where there are big questions where he will go, obviously, with this big discussion with world leaders. Benny Gantz is joining us now, former Israeli defense minister and deputy prime minister. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Please do set this up for us. Obviously, in this moment of what appears to be a fragile ceasefire.
Well, all ceasefires, especially when they start, they are kind of fragile, but it's a good...
Trump arrives in the Netherlands for his NATO summit, guys. Yeah, he got a meeting with NATO.
Opportunity to say thank you for having me on your show, but also to thank the President of the United States, Donald Trump, for not just being on the right side of history, but actually to know how to make history. Israel, together with the backup of the United States and obviously with this strategic participation by the United States forces, have pushed back a very, very serious threat, both for our country but also for the region and the world. And I think better days are ahead of us. So we'll go through this fragile era, but let us hope that we can move forward to a more positive situation around us.
Just for the benefit of our viewers at home, Mr. Gantz, we should mention that there's a fairly substantial delay between us and you there in Tel Aviv. The president this morning, as he was departing for the NATO summit, was none too pleased with neither Israel nor Iran. Listen to what he said.
I'm not happy with Israel. When I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either.
Now, as you pointed out a moment ago, Mr. Gantz, ceasefires in the initial stages can often...
Oh, that ain't all he said. Why you didn't tell him that Trump said this, man? You know what I'm saying? Don't leave out, because that wasn't all he said. That wasn't all he said.
Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. When I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. You understand that?
Yeah, that's what he said. Don't sugarcoat it. You know what I'm saying? Don't sugarcoat it. He most definitely said what he said. Yeah, they took that part out.
and be fragile. But the president was pretty hot under the collar about the fact that neither Israel nor Iran seemed to be living up to the terms of what he had agreed to. He's just landing in The Hague in the next few minutes. He's likely watching this. What do you say to the president about what happened earlier today?
I'm sure the president knows exactly that Israel did follow the ceasefire, and actually around 10 something hour time, we were hit by the Iranians, and therefore there was some kind of retaliation. I think it was very minimal one, and I hope that we won't have to do it again. We are absolutely aware of the United States and President Trump's effort to promote this ceasefire and to close this campaign as much as possible, and we do whatever in our capacity to follow it. Pretty much is in the Iranians' hand. If they won't shoot, I guess that we won't do that as well.
Mr. Gantz, I want to play out more sound from President Trump as he was departing there for this summit. This also was earlier at the White House on Iran's nuclear capabilities.
Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there, absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone.
Do you agree with all of that, Mr. Gantz?
Yes, it was badly damaged, and I don't think it's going to be easy, if possible, to begin with.
Let's get Hockey Mom right up out of here. You listen, ma'am, sir, it, thing, whatever. You don't tell me what to do on this channel. We'll holler at you. You just got deported. You don't got a green card anyway. We'll see you later. I don't know why you took your time to type that, sir, ma'am, child, whatever you are. We'll holler at you. You don't run nothing over here, and don't you ever forget it.
To reconstruct this site in Fordo or any other places, but let me be very honest and strategically honest, I would say. It is only the Iranians that will give up on their military nuclear ambitions. We, and when I'm saying we, is Israel, the Western world, the democratic country, the region led by the United States, must make sure they come to this conclusion as well, and they don't go back to this track. But if they will, a threshold was crossed from our side as well. We not just know how to act, but we are willing to act if needed, and I think this message has landed very clearly in Tehran as well.
All right. Mr. Gantz, you have enormous experience in all of this by virtue of your positions in the military, politically as well. What do you think happens in Iran? Prime Minister Netanyahu, when this first started, was encouraging regime change in Iran. President Trump mentioned it, but now he's saying he's not looking for a regime change. What do you think happens? Does the Ayatollah and the IRGC hang on, or by virtue maybe of the Israeli military bombing the gates of Evin prison, giving some of those political prisoners the chance to escape and get back into the populace, that an opposition movement starts to grow organically in Iran, and perhaps at some point in the months ahead, there is regime change? What do you think?
I can definitely hope so. Look, the Iranian society was taken hostage by this radical regime at the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s. Before that, it was very well connected with the Western world. It was very well connected with us, the Israelis, and I hope that one day we will have peace again. Now, a regime change basically comes from the people themselves, and it is for the Iranian to decide who they want to rule them or to administrate them. We went out on this campaign basically with some operational and strategic aspects to push back the nuclear capabilities, to minimize the ballistic threat all around us. And the regime change might be a positive outcome, but I don't think it is really part of this game right now.
All right, Benny Gantz, we appreciate your time today, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Gantz.
All right, y'all. So, as far as we know, Israel says that they won't fire any more shots as long as Iran don't, and basically they put the ball in Iran's hand. We also found out that Trump is on his way to NATO, you know, basically to conversate and converse about what's going on, guys. What else did I put off in here? Let me see real quick. Hold on. And that Trump was absolutely upset about them not going along with the ceasefire and continuing to battle it out with each other. We also heard the opinions of Candace Owens, Glenn Beck, and Bill O'Reilly and Piers Morgan on this whole situation, guys. You know, it's crazy, man. But as they most definitely keep me updated, I will most definitely keep y'all updated. So make sure if you're not subscribed to this channel, you subscribe. Turn your notification bell on to all so that you don't miss it when I go live, man. You know what I'm saying? Because I most definitely will be bringing you everything I hear involved in this situation, man. Shout out to everybody in the building. Shout out to anybody that sent a gift, anybody that sent a super chat or a super sticker, anybody that got a membership or gifted a membership. Just know that you are most definitely appreciated. Anybody that sent the cash out, a super chat, or a super sticker, you are appreciated. Shout out to the new subscribers as well as the old ones. And shout out to all my members as well as the new members and the old members. Y'all make sure y'all stay safe out here. Shout out to my moderating team. Without y'all, I don't know what I would do. Y'all most definitely keep the channel on point. And with that being said, it's time for me to make my grand exit. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. And with that being said, Sidewalk Gang, checking out. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Y'all be good. I'm gone.